It's time for MacBreak Weekly. We've got a big panel, Rene, Alex, Lory, and Andy, and they all want to talk about one thing. Yes, the new iPad Pro is here. Also, the new MacBook Air. There's even a new Mac Mini. New Product Day coming up on MacBreak Weekly. MacBreak Weekly comes to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 706, recorded Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. Now in pink cactus. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Molecule. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. For 10% off your first purifier order, visit molecule.com and enter the code MacBreak10. And by Matias, the Macintosh keyboard experts. When you need a new keyboard for your Mac, Matias has you covered with beautiful options you can't find anywhere else. Visit Matias at matias.ca/MacBreak for 10% off your first purchase. And by LastPass. From access to authentication to passwords, LastPass manages every entry point to your business so you can mitigate risk while improving employee productivity. Visit lastpass.com/twit to find out how LastPass can help you. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple, and we have assembled the fearsome foursome today. Let me tell you, it took some work to get them all in the same screen, but there they are. Rene Ritchie in your upper left-hand corner from imore.com and the Vector podcast. Hi, Rene.
Hi, Leo. I went shopping today. They made me wash my hands for 2 minutes before I went in.
Really?
Sanitize them to grab the cart. Sanitize them to use the payment method to pack this. Yeah, it was a whole procedure, but I was happy.
Oh, I'm glad they did that. I wish we would do that here. That's awesome.
It was fantastic.
Andy Ihnatko, he's joining us from the center square to block.
I was going to use that joke. I was going to say I'd like to go with Rene Ritchie for the win.
Andy from WGBH Boston joining us from the hot zone of the East Coast.
No, we are like one of the few remaining non-hot zones that I talked to my friend. I talked to my best friend in New York City, where it's like lock, super lockdown. And our governor has decided that maybe we should just like Canada, maybe we should shut our borders just to defend like vermin, the vermin from other New England states from coming in and taking advantage of our
I wish you would, because my mom's in Rhode Island too, and I would like it for her to be safe. She's 87 years old, and I am deeply worried about her and my dad, both 87. But I'm so and of course Sacramento is a pretty safe place, right, Lory Gill?
Because we're all locked down.
Yeah, you're locked down in her. These guys are always in their home. What's the big? What's the big deal?
Okay,
We've always been safe.
Yeah. I'm tired of people telling me that, because my mental health has always been based on the idea of I get to stay inside as long as I want, but I can still like walk down the street and have an afternoon at a coffee shop and observe humanity.
Even if you never did that, the knowledge that you could made the difference.
One day we could leave.
One day, someday. And there he is, Alex Lindsay, of course, with the best shot known to man, the best studio on the West Coast, also in his home. Hi, Alex.
Hello.
Good to have you.
Yeah, I'm roughing it here with my family.
You're probably busier than ever, though, right? At 090 Media, because everybody's streaming all of a sudden.
It's hectic. I don't know. People are still trying to figure it out. So right now I'm having a lot of phone calls. We'll see, what people do. But it's very, very busy right now because everyone's trying to take whatever they were doing in person, they're trying to figure out how to put it online. And, the rules are changing about what you can and can't do. We had last week we did a Patreon event, their weird telethon, which is what they called it. And it started off as something we're going to do in their office. And then on Monday we had to change it to Zoom. And it came out really well, but it was a lot of fast.
You're using Zoom? I'm surprised. I thought you'd probably have some super secret method for doing that.
So we have a more a bigger method that we had been building up, but we were like, oh, we'll have it ready sometime this summer. We'll be testing it, putting it out there. It wasn't something that we necessarily needed.
We got plenty of time.
And now we're working on it every day to get it built all up. And it's a lot of the stuff that Twit does already. It just has a couple more tools for communication, so that you can talk between the crew and talk between the individuals, and just a lot of extra bits and pieces. But no studio, so it's not designed to have anybody in the studio. It's just designed to talk to people remotely.
So we're doing. If you're watching the show on video, you probably, if you're audio, I don't think you'll notice a difference. But if you're watching on video, you notice we're not using the round table. I'm switching the show as I used to way back in the old days at the cottage.
It's really hard. Like I just want to point out, as someone who's done it with Leo, when I was first handed the reins to run, I think This Week in Media, I think I did there in the Twit cottage, and it's very overwhelming. Leo makes it look
There's
easy.
a lot to do. I got like
easy.
an octopus here doing this. But it's funny because it comes back to you. I haven't done it in a long time. One of the things we did was when we built the brick house, and then subsequently this studio, the LastPass studio, we made sure that I could sit back and enjoy the show and have a technical director. But we decided in these difficult times that it would be better to have as few people in studio in the office as possible. So I'm in my office, which is locked, sealed. Only I use it, so I feel like I'm fairly safe here. Probably safer here than home. There's nobody in this office. And then we do have one engineer. John is Jammer B's in the other studio, Studio A, because somebody has to. He's not switching. Normally, we'd have a technical director, Karsten or Kevin or somebody be switching for us. But I'm doing the switching, so that sent somebody home. Karsten's at home. Producing the show from his home. John has to be here just to do there's some physical stuff that has to be done. And that's about it. I think our office manager, Debbie's here, but she's all alone in her office. There's no one else there. We moved Lisa home last night, took all of her gear, including the most important thing, the check scanner. We took, she was nervous. She said, now it's going to work when we get home, right? I said, I'm sure we can get it to work. Which wasn't easy because in the previous version we had only worked with, I think, Internet Explorer or something. It was it's a bank, right? It isn't going to work with everything, but I think they're a little bit more, they're more flexible. So, but I am able to switch here and I still switch a little bit for the radio show. I do, I think it's the only show I do on my own in here. But now we'll do everything this way. Why have somebody come in if we can keep them at home? So forgive the awkward switching. Although I am glad we were able to develop a quad box. This is it's not quite the octo box you might see on the news channels, but it's pretty good. Yeah, it's the Brady Bunch box. So I hear there's new hardware. We were talking about this last week. Stop tickling each other.
No, I just don't know if these people have.
He's bad kidding Lori Gill.
That's okay.
He's sanitizing her hair. I don't know. We talked last week. We speculated, gee, will Apple release new hardware? Their stores are closed. It's kind of not a good time. On the other hand, it may be a chance to get a little extra revenue. Well, they proved us, I don't know if we were right or wrong, but they proved us something by releasing the new iPad Pros, 11 and 12.9 inch. And oh, look, somebody's got one or two. And is that the MacBook Air you got there? Or is that?
Yep. So gold.
Oh. So they announced a new MacBook Air and a new iPad Pro 11 and 12.9 inch. They announced for May this new Magic keyboard. We'll have to wait. You don't have one of those, do you, Rene?
No, I got the new Folio. They don't have the new Magic keyboards ready quite yet.
Yeah. To me, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So why don't Rene, since you've had it for, how long have you had it for? A few days?
Almost a week.
Oh, okay.
It took a little while to get to Canada, as you might imagine.
Well, is this tell us about it. Tell us about both of them. What do you think?
Which one do you want to start with?
Well, start with the iPad.
Okay. So it is very, very, very similar to the 2018 iPad Pro. It's only got a few differences. The major one is this little box up here, which looks at first blush like an iPhone 11 camera. It's not quite as good because the cameras aren't quite as big. The sensors aren't quite as big. It's got a wide angle and an ultra wide angle. And then over here, it has got, coordination issues. Over here, it's got LiDAR, which is basically, think about it like a true depth camera, but on the back. So it can shoot out up to 5 meters and then measure time of flight back. And that means if you're familiar with ARKit, it's like that, but it's instant. It's like you don't have to move it around and try to scan the floor. It's just, you want the IKEA chair there? It's there. You want a mesh of the entire room? Here's your mesh of the room. You want physics-based gravity? There you go. So it's all of that stuff just amped up, and powering it is an A12Z processor, not an A13X, an A12Z,
now,
which is
you struggled to say that Z. I've been saying Z, and you say Z.
I would say Z, but then people want to know where I'm from and why am I doing that to them.
I like Z. We're going to call it the
okay.
Z. So how much faster is the A12Z Bionic?
So it's not faster, really. What it is it adds an 8th GPU core, so it's wider. It's not necessarily faster, but it's wider. It does have a tweaked performance controller, which has always been Apple's secret sauce. It's not just that their chips are fast, it's that they rapidly dispatch between the CPUs, the GPUs, the accelerator units, and the neural network, and that helps make sure that the right task is being done, and they're being done, like, they don't have to wait for each other. They're not sort of getting in each other's way. And it's that's sort of the extent of it. There's a rumor that all of them have 6 gigabytes of RAM now. I only have the 1 terabyte version, which has always had 6 gigabytes, so I can't confirm or deny that part of it. But that's essentially like the same screen, same Apple Pencil, same speakers. The microphones are better. Apple says they're like the 16-inch MacBook Pro microphones now. They're calling them studio quality. So if you're on the road, you want to record an interview and you don't have a mic, you can use those. But it's essentially, it's not meant, like, people are panicking going, that's not a really big upgrade from the 2018. And it's not really meant to be. It's meant to be for people who haven't bought an iPad in a while and want to get the latest and the greatest and not something that's 18 months old. But I think primarily it's meant to set up the next iPhone so that developers and everybody have their hands on this LiDAR gear. And then when the new iPhone comes out, there's a bunch of apps that are already done. And some of Apple gave us, they didn't put it up on their website for some reason, but they gave a bunch of us a video of some developers showing it off, and it's doing amazing things. And my guess is when the new iPhone hits, it'll have all of that plus whatever Apple has been working on, like a new camera app, a new Mac app, and the iPads will get all that as well.
So, none of that is as important, in my opinion, as what they did with iOS 13.4.
Yes. And
the new keyboard. But let's hold that. Go ahead.
You mean the new Memoji stickers, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, the new Memoji stickers. Let's hold that, though, because you were saying something, Alex?
All I was going to say is that, the studio mic thing, regardless of the studio mics, it's as we know, the placement of the mics. And so having the mics on the iPad doesn't necessarily make a studio quality process there. So I think that the mics are kind of a little bit of overblown from that perspective.
It's better, though, isn't it, to have those array mics than a single point mic?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But it's still, I'm not convinced it's going to be something you'd want to use for production. But the LiDAR is a must-have for a lot of us.
Is it fair to call it LiDAR? Stacey Higginbotham said we should call it just a time of flight sensor. But it is technically a laser.
I think it's technically
LiDAR is a kind of time of flight, but not all time of flight is LiDAR, is my understanding. And this is laser.
It is laser
time of flight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So I know I do believe technically it's LiDAR. I think that the interesting thing there is that one of the things that we spend a lot of time when we're acquiring information about scenes or objects is mixing laser data with photography, so we can have photogrammetry filling in details, and the laser data giving us structure. It's what we call structured light versus an unstructured light. And so the two of them working together is very interesting. And I don't think we're going to see it immediately as the iPad comes out, but I think what we're going to start seeing are applications where it uses the LiDAR to get very accurate information, and then it uses the photos to fill in all the data, and the texture and the lighting of an object. So you can imagine having an iPad, and you want to, I want to throw an object into my Pages document or my Keynote document. I can literally take a couple photos of it, get a 3D model, have it, basically imported in probably the same way we see you import photos from an iPhone or an iPad, have that pop straight into the document as a 3D model, as a USDZ 3D model that can be rotated around. And that all the hardware there is there to do that in minutes. So that is
it exposed in ARKit? Is there an update to ARKit to expose that, or is it a separate function?
Well, USDZ is something that has been rolling around for almost 2 years now, and so we keep on seeing it continually progressing.
That's right. I remember when Apple announced that at WWDC last year.
Yeah, USD. It was announced two years WWDCs ago, and it is USDZ or USD is the universal scene description, and that is Pixar's transfer format, and then Apple added a zip to it, so it's zipped up into a contained piece, and so that means you have a contained item that the OS theoretically will support as just a media container in any app that is asking for a media container. So it's not just the pages, and it could theoretically be any app that can put that in. It's just a window that you now have interactivity into, and so the ability for the device to be able to gather the information it needs to very quickly identify an object and pop it out, or a room and put it in there, means that there's a level of fluidity of bringing 3D objects into that. And you can imagine, not only could you throw it into a Pages document or a Keynote document, and at some point you could have it in a document where someone clicks on it and picks up their iPad and looks at it, and it just pops into their room, and so there's all kinds of possibilities here of being able to gather the data, because one of the problems is kind of a chicken or egg. You can build AR and it can do all these models, but you need to be able to gather those models as well. And we have a lot of them right now, but people can model them. But what if you have something in the field that you want to put into a document? And I think that this has all the pieces to allow that to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take to do it, but I think that the hardware is now there.
Is this the same hardware as in the front of the iPhone, or is it a different?
I don't think it is. I mean, Rene may know. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's different.
So, in other words, no one's had access to this kind of data on an iDevice up to now.
Yeah, some Android cameras have had it, and they've used it mostly for portrait mode. And there was Project Tango, which was one of those things that was super promising, but Google didn't commercialize it in the end.
So Tango did have it. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And we had a version of this.
Played a lot with Tango. Yeah, and we played a lot with Tango, and it was very powerful, and it allowed you to start gathering data about scenes. I mean, that's a lot of what we used it for, was to walk into a location and be able to gather 3D data, of that location. But it was much more accurate once you had Tango. When you're using a Tango-enabled phone, the accuracy that you got was dramatically better and dramatically faster. So it's definitely the right direction. Unfortunately, I think Google had a lot of power consumption issues with the phone version of it, and then stopped even putting it on their own phones, and so that made it problematic. And I'll be interested to see if we see the same thing with iPhones, where this sensor makes sense on an iPad. I think that it'll be difficult for it to work on an iPhone without burning up the battery pretty quickly.
Really?
So
that's
interesting to see how they use it. At least the way it was implemented in Tango, it shortened your battery life dramatically.
Oh, that's
so
really
again, on a larger battery on an iPad, it makes sense. The phone, and Apple might be better at figuring out ways to either alert you that you're about to, push the battery pretty hard or push the system pretty hard, or other ways to save power. But
it's also a more advanced scanner, so it's doing things that Tango did more roughly in a more refined way.
Yep, absolutely.
So this is exciting. I mean, although I have to say, all the AR apps we've seen up to this point can work just fine on the iPhone without any depth sensing. So,
if you watch that video that I put it up on my Instagram channel, but if you watch that, they have the developer from Hot Lava and a couple of and from IKEA and from a couple other places. Yeah. That is it is just and I've had a chance to use it. I was walking around my condo, measuring everything, and it is so fast. It does the same things, but it does it so fast that it's sort of you forget that it's AR after a few seconds.
Interesting.
And I think what we're seeing is a very slow roll. This is. What we're used to seeing from Facebook and Google and other folks is kind of we're going to throw up something, we're going to see how people react to it, and then we're going to kind of just keep on responding, or we're going to give up. Whereas, what we're seeing from Apple is this kind of very slow, over 2 or 3 years, slowly just unwrapping this to make sure that there's a whole environment that's available as they, release, future hardware and software.
I just want to ask, does anybody know how close the 3D resolution of the 3D scanner is? Like, is it now good enough that you could capture an object into 3D as opposed to figuring out where the table is and where to put the little Pokemon onto? Because I think that'll be one. I think that'll be one of the big crackers.
The first thing is the Pokemon one.
Yeah,
of course.
Rene would agree with that.
But you need something to get. You always need something to de-stress people. Like Memoji was brilliant, not because Memoji is really goofy, but it was brilliant at getting people to be comfortable with putting themselves or representations of themselves into AR space. It took all the stress and anxiety and everything out of that. It wasn't like, oh, why is the machine scanning my face and I don't understand what. It's like, oh, look, an animated me, and it was just an easy to grasp concept. And I half suspected that I don't think it's ready yet. I think Apple has a really compelling experience coming with the iPhone 12 with this technology. And I don't think it'll be Umoji where suddenly I can turn Lory into like a unicorn. Oh, that would be fun. But there'll be something else that just lets you play with AR. And then once people play with it, they're more and more comfortable. And then when it goes onto the glasses, we've had privacy issues with, or just people feeling awkward about Google Glass when you have a camera on. But LiDAR is not a camera. No one's actually looking at you. It's just getting a sense of space, and it can do a lot without actually, looking at you. And I think that's going to be a big step forward for these technologies.
And again, the LiDAR doesn't have to. The LiDAR doesn't have to be accurate enough to get the model. It needs to be accurate enough to inform the photogrammetry to get the model. So the photogrammetry by itself has a hard time referencing it, but what you have here is a LiDAR scanner right next to the camera. So it can basically sync up the information from the two of those as it's working. And so it's able to derive a lot of data. I mean, almost infinite. I mean, not infinite, but just in millions and millions and millions of points from the photogrammetry. It just needs to very easily be able to reference those back to, an underlying structure of structured data that it actually knows is true.
I wonder if that's why we have more RAM in these devices, or might have more RAM in these devices.
I mean,
also
potentially it's
also Photoshop.
Yeah. But potentially, this is one of the most exciting releases in the last couple of years. Being able to combine these, at least for people who are interested in content, of all kinds. It is an extremely exciting piece of hardware if it lives up to that. And it'll take a little while for it to progress. I mean, we're just seeing the hardware, and now the developers have to take advantage of it. And I didn't see examples. I saw a couple examples where you can see it start to grab data from the scene. So it's building out the tables, and this is in the what Rene posted. So building out the tables and building out those pieces. And what you'll notice is that it grabs some of the information, and as you keep moving or get closer, it starts adding more to the corners and everything else. And so it's kind of an amazing, for people like me that I started doing this in the 90s by hand, where you just matched it with your eye.
That's why you're on the show, Alex. Because,
and so, but I'm just saying that this is amazing. This isn't an iPad. This is amazing.
I just remember how transformative it was when the first time that people had the first platform that had access to an affordable color scanner, and now some of your friends have actual pictures of their kids, as opposed to here's a link to some place where you can go order a copy of this photo. Right. The same thing for the first generation of hardware that could actually burn an audio CD, and I think that the turning point for, I wouldn't say AR, but bigger than AR, just acceptance of 3D as an object type, as a data type, as a feature of apps, is going to be when you can go into a museum, and if you're lucky enough that you go to the Smithsonian, where you can actually get 360 degrees around a certain statue to say, I really like that statue. I want to steal a copy of it for myself so that I can enjoy it at home, whether it's just to simply have it in an album where you could just go around it again, or even throw it into a 3D printer and make your own copy of this 1892 34-inch bronze. I think that's when people are really going to sit up and take notice. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to how well the understanding of the shape of the environment is going to affect photography alone. That in itself should be amazing. But the time when you can actually decide to not just take a picture of your kid in your 6-year-old in their Halloween costume, but take a 3D model of it and be able to revisit it, years later. That's, I think, is what's going to get people to say, you know what, I think I will go for the Pro model of this, or I think that I think that I'm ready to go for this instead.
And also take a picture of your kid and print it. I mean, you like have a 3D model of your kid. You can make little action figures. You make little action figures and print 3D prints of your kids. And so that that all that stuff is not very far away. I mean,
how many times though have we seen Apple put in these hardware features and nobody uses them, or they get ignored? You think this will be used? People will be so excited about this they'll jump out with software.
I think the big thing is that getting it into the OS and really seeing it as a data type that we're seeing on many apps. It'll probably be first Apple's app.
Yeah, but that was 2 years ago they did that, right?
No, they haven't. It's not. You can't add a 3D object like this. You can't add a USDZ object into Pages or into Keynote yet.
I see.
So those are things that if once that happens, and I truly believe that there's an explosive market that once Keynote is able to use USDZ, 3D apps and everything else, because there's going to be strong demand for affordable 3D objects that you can throw in. So think of all of the icons that you kind of can throw into Keynote right now, those little blue ones that you can choose. Imagine all of those being objects that you can just throw in.
Microsoft had a big education event a couple of years ago where they really went all out. They said, it's going to be 3D world. We're going to show you how to do all this stuff. And they did a lot of demos of it, and it just died on the vine.
It was
I don't think it's dying, though. I think that what you have to remember is that AR and VR are so new right now that they're like basically the back end of it is being built. And once that's all established and in place, then the developers get to come in and actually turn that infrastructure into something cool. So I don't think it is dying. I think they're trying to get us excited about what's coming in the future, but we see it as some sort of failed attempt, but actually it's all still happening. It's all still being built. We're just not seeing that because that's all the background work that, the ugly stuff that we're not impressed with,
Yeah, I agree.
Apple also has a unique opportunity in that Microsoft and Google, they can suggest hardware support and hardware features, but then it's up to the manufacturers to actually implement them. Apple can not only implement them on the software side and the hardware side, they can also throw elbows with the developer community and say, oh, that's a very, very nice text-based note processor. By the way, we will not allow the next version to the App Store unless your note taker also supports 3D objects supported by our new API.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be maybe it'll take. They have a lot of time to work on this, I guess. This is a very long game that we're slowly seeing kind of open up. When we look at the mouse support, for instance, that we saw, the issue you get into is that they didn't do that because someone asked for it in the fall or in June. They didn't kind of pop it out. I mean, that takes a long time to develop that, and so the in the same way, I think we just have to remember this is a long pipeline, and if it's not successful, I still feel like Apple is going to keep building it, and slowly find its place. And if it is successful, what happens is if you don't have a Mac, or if you don't have an Apple piece of hardware and this starts to take off, it would take years for everybody else to come up to speed.
I think the key thing is that Tim Cook talks about it, and he doesn't talk about many products. And I think that's because he doesn't see it as a product. He sees it as LCD. Like you have a display now. Your iPhone has a display. Your iPad has a display. Your Mac has a display. He thinks that AR is going to be a display technology, and it's going to be surfaced everywhere in glasses, in all these different products. And they want to have a huge amount of developer experience and internal knowledge by the time those next generation products arrive. And we're dealing with the awkward, I'm holding this iPad in front of my face now to see the thing. But one day we won't be, and they'll have a huge amount of experience and software behind it when we are.
Yeah.
And it's all dripping in. When you look at media, the AR composer, AR creator, AR converter, those are key pieces that without those, it was really hard to get data in. And now developers can simply, grab a model and throw it in and have it working and see how it goes. And so we're just seeing all of these little pieces get assembled, and they're being released for us so that the folks who understand what's possible can get to work and start figuring out what they can do with it before you try to roll it out. And I think that cadence is really complicated and really difficult.
Yeah.
It's also super key to everything else they're doing, because these aren't all separate things. Like when you look at like their special projects, for example, everything from Titan automation to the AR stuff, a lot of that depends on computer vision, on scene understanding. Even the stuff we have in today's iPhone 11 camera, where it does semantic modeling to understand what's hair and what texture that should have and what's sky. All of that counts on them being able to ingest information from the real world and understand it in silicon. And this, even with this iPad, they're doing a lot of things to make sure the neural engine and the computer vision system understand what's coming in from the time of flight sensor and the LiDAR system. And that is just going to keep building as well and build up their knowledge.
All right. And it's probably why they put 8 lanes of GPU in there, too. They put more RAM. They probably, I bet you they put a beefier battery, because I would imagine it'd have the same problem Tango had of eating the battery.
Well, so it runs, interestingly, it can run contiguously, but developers can also choose how often they sample it. Yeah. And my guess is going to depend on the application. And some of them will just race to sleep and be super efficient. But like if you're Alex and you're live scanning your entire castle, it might work a little harder.
And give me an application that we, they showed hot lava. Makes sense. You're holding up your iPad. There's lava on the living room floor. You can have your little man jumping around in your living room. That's interesting, not compelling. I don't think anybody's going to hold up their iPad for more than an hour. That's the kind of thing you go, okay, fine. They show the IKEA app. We've already seen that. You could put furniture in your living room. Tell me the killer app.
What's not out yet?
That already exists?
No. What's going to come out that's going to make everybody go, I get it.
It's Apple's AR camera. They've been working on it for like 3-4 years, and I've been hearing about it for 3-4 years, and everyone's like stupefied with it. And hopefully, again, it'll do what the true depth camera, if you could get the same people who love selfies today to be super invested in what they can create on Instagram and Snapchat and Byte and all these other platforms, like even Alex's kids, with a rear-facing camera that understands exactly what's behind you, can place objects in space, can change your masks, can change your appearance.
Samsung demoed that with the Galaxy S.
But Samsung has done so many things before Apple, Leo.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it was a cool demo. They showed how you could shoot somebody. You get a 3D model of them like that. You can animate it. You could move it around. They showed it. Nobody ever used it again. It's a feature I can't even remember how to get to in the S10 Plus.
And then it'll be glasses. It'll be glasses.
Is it that these are poorly implemented? Is that why they don't take off? Because it looks to me like it's like ho hum. Who cares?
It's a lot of work, right?
It's an ecosystem, though. You have to have the creation tools. The developers have to understand it. You have to have the distribution. You have to have all of those things. This is
that's what I'm asking you. So what's going to be the app that's going to get the normal person to go, I have to have that? Is it what does the AR camera do that's different? What makes that so special?
Well, it's really getting that accurate information and being able to both generate
That's
data
all.
But I'm saying that it's
my mom, my dad. I don't care about that. I don't care about IKEA or hot lava. What's the thing that's going to make me say, "Oh, I got to have this"?
I think a camera that you can use in, like to take a full 3D picture of your kid, like that's a win. I think that's a big one. I think like a camera that can actually do something like that, that's going to get grandma taking pictures of the grandkids, because it can get them front side, back side, get the whole 3D image of them, and then look at that picture and spin it around and show, everything else within that frame. I think that's a big one. If it's done right, I think that'll be a winner.
Virtual Timmy's cleaning his room. Why isn't real Timmy cleaning his room? Look, virtual Timmy's doing his chores.
Sounds like a gimmick to me. What else?
Well, and I guess so. The thing is that I don't.
The glasses, Leo.
It all comes down to the glasses, right? It's not this form factor. It's some later form factor.
An iPad is a big.
But I also think
iPad.
I don't think it's this form factor at all. I think this is allowing developers to look at it. This is allowing people who understand it to look at it. I think that when it's in the phone, when it's in other hardware, when it's in those things, those are the killer apps. And I think that also
that says you should not go out and buy this iPad for that feature, because there ain't going to be.
Unless you're a developer.
Alex should, right? There is no.
Right.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that if you're getting a new iPad, it's great. Like you should buy a new iPad. If you understand what. Yeah, if you really want the trackpad stuff, if you really want the LiDAR stuff, camera. there's the wide angle, which, by the way, the number one feature in my new iPhone, or the newish iPhone that I have, is that ultra wide. It is the most amazing little camera, and I take so many pictures with it.
I will give you that. So, absolutely.
So So there's other reasons to buy the iPad. This is not, when you buy with the watch, I look at the watch. To me, there's no killer app in the watch. There's nothing particularly special about it, but there's enough little things that it does that I would never go back to having an old-fashioned watch, and I wouldn't use anybody else's because it ties into my life, and it's not shock and awe. It is just good enough that I won't use anything else. And I think that what we're going to see is a lot of things happen when, as Apple slowly rolls this out. What you're doing is, again, slowly allowing people, because you can't just pop out with this because you can't keep it secret. So the thing is that you have to roll out pieces of this. Now all of their partners and all of the developers can sit there and work on ideas and put, the stuff that we saw from that was there is using, somewhat open stuff so people kind of know. So it's this slow drip out. And I don't think it has to be a killer app. I think it's the fact that IKEA is incorporating it and Home Depot is incorporating it and, a whole bunch of other people are incorporating it. I think that is, where you start seeing it pop up everywhere. And the hard part for, Apple's competition is that it's, it's really hard to do. Like Apple's doing something that is really, really hard to do well. And Samsung, yes, did it half-baked and it didn't come out very well. And Google did it half-baked and it didn't come out very well.
Wait a minute. I thought you said Tango was good.
Yeah, it was great, but it didn't work because they didn't give it all this other support. They didn't have the subsystem that would allow you to drop it into different locations. They required everybody to work really hard to use the piece. And what Apple's doing is slowly creating that environment that allows for it to be successful so that when it becomes a consumer solution, there's a lot of partners and developers who, understand what they can do with it. And I think that and that is an extremely difficult thing to do. And it's almost impossible to do if you don't own the hardware and the software infrastructure, and you have the money to just throw. I can't even imagine how much money at rolling this out slowly over years. And it's a and what it means is, and I think the reason that we see Tim Cook constantly talking about it because he knows he's playing a game that almost nobody else can play with him. And if it's successful, it becomes it's if it's successful, and I think it will be. It becomes very, very hard to replicate. And it becomes another iPhone, but even harder. This is an iPhone that nobody else can build, or it'll take people a long time to build. They'll have to support USDZ because they can't build their own format. They'll have to take Apple solutions because they don't have any other choice. They're just playing such a big game with this that it's going to be very, very, very hard for someone else to compete in this place. And our kids will be used to it. Our friends will be used to it. It'll have to take years. But as that happens, other people are going to try to keep up, and it's just very, very difficult to do it. It's a very hard thing that they're doing, in my opinion.
It's an interesting situation. I can't think of a lot of times that companies released a feature that isn't going to be that useful, but they need to seed the market with, so that sometime down the road, when they come out with glasses, say,
especially Apple.
That's a big they're way ahead on this one.
I was going to say something exactly the same thing, Rene. We often on the show we talk about how it's not important that Apple wasn't the first to market with this. They can hang back and actually wait to see how the market responds and then respond with something that's even better. This could be the same situation in reverse now, where Apple really is the only company who tie in the hardware, the OS, the software, and the developer support into one package. And I'm sure that all these other companies would very much love to be able to do that. They'd love to be able to do that on Windows. They'd love to be able to do that on Android. But maybe what they're going to have the opportunity to do instead is to wait for Apple to develop this market, wait for Apple and Apple's developers to develop that killer app that convinces everybody that, my God, I really, really want LiDAR on my phone, or I really, really want these 3D features on my phone. And then instead of having to spend 3 or 4 years convincing their manufacturers to fall in line, they can point to, here's exactly the product you need to make. Here's exactly how we should support it. And now that we can undercut Apple by $200 per unit and give people the choice of having a headphone jack if they want one, maybe we can actually compete very well on that basis.
But without the development system, without all of the infrastructure that's required to make that work, it's going to be very hard. The problem is they'll come into developers years behind.
No, it's really, really easy. It's if you have Apple doing the R&D for you, to point you, here's what you need for infrastructure. And if there's finally a market for it, the developers of every platform will want to make money on that market. So it's not as though Apple needs 3 or 4 years to build the support and build this community, but I don't think it would take nearly that long of a runway for anybody else to see this success and then replicate it. Look what happened with the iPhone. It took a couple of years for the Android community to find its car keys, but once they found those car keys, they were on that highway in the exact same lane as the iPhone.
But I think the watch is also a good example where there's a whole lot of people that are trying that, and they've mostly lost.
Different. That's different because they have no control over hardware. Qualcomm is the only manufacturer of CPUs for wearables, and they have shown absolutely no interest in progressing beyond the same chip they made about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. So that's not the best comparison, but I do take your point.
Let's take a break. We've spent an hour talking about just the camera. So there are other things to talk about, and
Let's talk about the hinge for the next hour.
The hinge, baby. Actually, I do want to talk about the keyboard. There's I think a very important moral to derive from the keyboard. I also want to talk about the MacBook Air, of course, Apple's most popular Macintosh by far, probably the world's most popular Ultrabook, I would guess, by far. Rene Ritchie from iMore, also from iMore, Lory Gill, Andy Ihnatko from WGBH Boston, and our media guru, Alex Lindsay. And MacBreak Weekly will continue. Our show today brought to you by Molecule, the air we breathe. You know, I didn't realize this. According to the World Health Organization, 80% of people living in urban areas are exposed to air quality below standards, below the WHO standards. That's the pollution we live in. Not right now, it's getting better, but I don't know if it'll stay that way. Indoor air can be 5 times worse than outdoor air. That's according to the EPA. And most of us spend most of our time indoors, a lot of times, as I am right now, in a sealed office where the only air I'm getting is piped in. Molecule is designed to eliminate air pollution. In fact, I just read a study from the Lawrence Livermore Labs, the Berkeley Labs, where they took a molecule and they showed that while the molecule was running reduction in ozone by 95%, reduction in formaldehyde, that's the stuff coming up off your carpets and your drapes, 95%. A lot of air purifiers make the air worse by pumping formaldehyde or ozone into the air. Not the molecule. The molecule uses a technology called PICO, photoelectrochemical oxidation, that destroys volatile organic compounds. Doesn't just trap them. It's not a filter. It destroys them with its PICO system. And if you go to molecule.com, molecule spelled with a K.com, you can see in their white papers section studies by the University of Minnesota Particle Calibration Lab, Intertech. I didn't see the Berkeley Labs study up there yet, but I think that'll be up there soon if it's not already. Particles so small as 0.1 micron removed by the molecule air and the Air Mini during a 25-minute test. Capture of larger particles dropped from about 3,500 to 600 in less than 25 minutes. The science is in there, and you can read the white papers. I know you might have seen reports from a couple of companies who are testing only the filter portion of it. That's not the important part of the molecule. It's the PICO filter. And that's why we have molecules here in the studio. We have molecules at home. And I can tell you just purely anecdotally, Lisa always knows if the molecule's not running. If somebody unplugs it, our son occasionally will borrow it. He has one in his room, but he'll borrow it for his study. And it's not plugged back in. Lisa wakes up. She says, I have a headache. Where's the molecule? She'll know. Molecule really works. Air purification for the whole home across a range of products. The Molecule Air for larger rooms like our studio. The Molecule Air Mini for this smaller studio. You can also create a bundle. They're quiet, they work, and they've got the science to prove it. Allergy and asthma sufferers around the country are thrilled about the Molecule. You will too. For 10% off your first air purifier order, visit molecule.com, MOLEKULE.com, and use our offer code MacBreak10 at checkout. This is a good time to have a Molecule. So you're going to spend more time indoors. Be a good time to have the Molecule running all the time. MOLEKULE.com. And don't forget the offer code MacBreak10. Thank you, Molecule, for your support of MacBreak Weekly. Thank you for supporting MacBreak Weekly by checking it out. Molecule.com. Promocode.com. And if you're at all skeptical, read those white papers from independent labs, many of them all over the world that have tested and verified the molecule does what it says it'll do. Molecule.com. Promo code MacBreak10. Andy Ihnatko, Rene Ritchie, Lory Gill, Alex Lindsay. Enough about the LiDAR. Let's move on.
Enough about the LiDAR.
Enough about the LiDAR. I heard the LiDAR.
We get it.
What I was most excited about, despite the price, of course, is the new Magic Keyboard, which is $245 for the 11-inch, $345. It costs more than an Xbox for the 12.9-inch. But what is interesting to me is not the price or the form. Well, the form factor is very interesting, but what it means to me. Now, we're all waiting right now for 13.4 to come out. It's supposedly, is it going to come out today?
It's
Rene?
out.
Is it out?
Yeah.
All right. I'll be busy downloading. You guys can discuss while I download.
On your
I've
iPhone,
already
you
been
need it on your
playing around
iPad.
with it.
Yeah, that's the iPhone I don't care about, but I'm going to install it on everything.
I'll just say before, since we shocked everybody with the price of the Magic Keyboard,
Oy.
I was so happy that Apple didn't screw this up in the way that Apple kind of tends to screw things up, where it's like, oh man, 300. I can't get. Oh great, so I got to have a brand new iPad, and I got to have this $350 trackboard. But no, it will work with Bluetooth, so you can bring your own hardware. Third parties, of course, are supporting it, so you can buy a cheaper integrated keyboard. And also, it's not just for the iPad.
You're talking
Pro.
about the trackpad feature. Now.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about the pointer feature, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
The ability to.
Let's be clear.
Okay.
You really confused me on that one. So we're talking about the keyboard, the Magic Keyboard, that will work with the older 2018 iPad Pro as well as the current iPad Pro.
Yes.
It does add a trackpad as well as, I think, nobody's touched it, right? You guys haven't touched it.
I got to talk about it. It's basically the Magic Keyboard. So it's the same mechanism as the MacBook Air Magic Keyboard. It's got scissor switches in it. It is backlit.
Wait a minute.
They went all out.
It's not this It's not the smart keyboard.
No.
It's the MacBook Air or MacBook 16 Magic Keyboard. That's huge.
Yes.
That's a decent
with the
keyboard.
backlighting, which is also huge because
Backlighting,
if you're going to go, if you're going to charge, you got to deliver like everything.
It has a Type-C connector on the hinge.
Yes.
Which makes,
Pass-through.
when you, does it pass data as well?
No, it's power pass-through, so you can
only
charge
power.
while using the port on the so you can basically, I believe it passes power to the smart connector to reverse charge the iPad
but no
while your
data
other
is
connector
coming
is
through.
open.
That's very important. No data is coming through the smart connector. But it does tell us now why the smart connector on the new iPads is not on the bottom, but on the side. Even on the 2018, they clearly were anticipating this. Right, because
they've been working on these keyboards for a while.
Yeah, if it's on the bottom, you can't hinge it, you can't cantilever it up because it'll disconnect. So this was something they thought about in 2018. But to me, why it's significant, and Andy, we will talk about the trackpad.
Sorry.
We will talk about the pointer because I think it's very important. But I think the larger story to me, especially, pricing tells you this, the pointer tells you this, the new keyboard tells you this Apple is now saying the iPad is a laptop, is a portable computer for the rest of us.
Except for their marketing. Their marketing just does the exact. So my understanding is this, like they're still full in on the Steve Jobs vision of the iPad as naked tablet for everybody, for the millions of people who could not use, didn't like, felt stupid by traditional computers. You can still buy one, press your home button, tap your apps. It'll be super accessible and approachable to you. But for the traditional computer people who have just been super unsatisfied with that, who just wanted their mouse and pointers and keyboards, sort of like what Microsoft has been doing, this is Apple's ode to them. It's like and I think they very deliberately are showing people tearing it off and putting it on because they want to highlight that it's not just a laptop or a flip phone. It's an iPad, an honest to gosh iPad that you can dock and use like a traditional computer. Like if you're someone like us, if you're someone like all of tech Twitter who really wants that experience, and then you can pull it off and go back to using your pencil or something if you want to as well.
Well, that's a mistake. They need to, I think, because this is what Microsoft did and it screwed them. They need to decide. It's either
it's a
media
consumption
thing or it's the next personal computer.
So again, my understanding is that a small but very loud portion of the market actually buys these. That's why the iPad market share is ridiculous. It's essentially an iPad market. They sell so many more of the non-Pro iPads. They don't want to interfere with that. So people are super happy with that. They understand it. But if you do want the other thing, it's like when the Mac originally didn't have arrow keys or a terminal. Now it has arrow keys and a terminal. You don't have to use them. If you just want to use the mouse and pointer, you're fine. But for those of us who want the arrow keys in the terminal, it's there, and it should be. And it should be a first-class experience when you offer and provide it.
I do think that this is a concession that maybe Apple should have supported multi-touch on a more powerful desktop class operating system sooner, because you see that a lot of commentators are unfairly quoting Tim Cook on his toaster fridge comments about having multi-touch on a desktop, which I think that most people thought that, okay, this is marketing, this is God bless you, Tim, you're flying the colors, but we know that there's a quiver in your eye that says that even you don't believe that. And I think that this is an acknowledgement that once you charge more than $500 or $600 for a device, people are going to, you can call it a nouvelle tablette, but people are going to still call it a computer. They're going to try to get $500, $600, $1,000, $1,500 worth of value out of it. And for that really does involve being able to not have to take your hands off a keyboard every 8 seconds to do a selection, or not have to watch, which I have done, actually have to watch a YouTube video saying, okay, I know that there's a way for me to select discontinuously slides in Keynote, but what is I hold, but then tap and then slide and then two finger. So I do. Apple is not required to admit that they're wrong, but I do think that this is a concession that perhaps we stuck to our dogmatic guns on this much longer than we should have, especially if people are spending $1,000 on these things.
What if we made three? Okay, I'm going to amend what I was thinking and make 3 lanes. So there's the iPad, the traditional, your thing, Rene. There's the Pro, which I think Apple's thinking of, especially because of this new keyboard, as the computer for the rest of us. And then there's the truck. And I'll tell you my ulterior motives for this. There's the truck, which is the Mac OS stuff. My ulterior motive is I don't want them to abandon Intel on Mac OS. I think that's going to be a disaster. I mean, no, Apple could. If anybody could do it, Apple could do it. But I just think ARM. I'll be honest. I don't know.
So
if
this
bother.
is the SUV.
Yeah, I don't think. That's what I'm saying is now I understand they don't need to bother. They've got Mac OS. Right. They have a truck. There are people like me who want the truck. They're going to have that middle ground, which is a laptop computer, but it's touch. It's beautiful. It's got all the and then they're going to have. I guess I'll amend my thinking to say then there's the the inexpensive iPads, which are consumption devices.
$349.
Yeah,
I call it.
Yeah. I like this. I think that seems to me a reasonable strategy, and I think that maybe that's what Apple's been thinking all along. Obviously, this is not something they just made up in the spur of the moment.
It's been a huge argument, I think, internally, and different people have won it over, and we can see by which products they release who's been winning it on which side for the years. But I think this is
Do you think the battle's
when
over?
When they announced iPad OS, I think that's real hard to walk back, no matter which side of that argument you're on. You're now committed to the strategy.
Well,
I think that also works.
Go ahead.
I look at my own behavior, and I just look at the fact that I use my laptop less and less and less and less, and my iPad more and more and more.
Well, and add this trackpad and keyboard, that makes that solves for me, except for the missing Pro apps, but we'll get to that. Right. But that solves to me the biggest complaint about this. Now I can have the fine control. It was your complaint too, as I remember, Alex.
Yep. Yeah, it's like when I'm building, I'm in OmniGraffle building wiring documents. It's very hard to do that with your finger. You just can't, because you're moving so fast and you're doing all these little bits and pieces, and it's just very, very difficult to try to do that by hand and so with your hand. And so using a trackpad, I think that I would go right back to OmniGraffle and try to take advantage of that in that app as an example.
Yeah.
But there's so many places. The same things you were talking about, whether it's Andy was talking about with the Keynote, in Pages, all of these things, in Numbers. All of these things are a lot easier to do in many apps, and there'll be a handful of apps that I have to go back to my computer for because they're not available. But that's the only reason I'm going back to them.
You'll still need a truck. I'm not going to do development on this new iPad form factor. I'm not video editing.
Did anyone else Did anyone else see the comment on their thing about external displays for your iPad?
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Those work. So those have always worked. The only difference is now the trackpad works with them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at that. I was like, external displays. I didn't even think about connecting an external display.
I think of my iPad as an external display for my Mac.
Yeah. Right, but I was like, to the 6K display, Alex. You can buy a Pro Display XDR and hook your iPad up right now.
That says something about the power in this thing too. I mean, these things are incredibly powerful, and I just feel like there is now a very clear path forward for Apple that doesn't require putting ARM on Mac OS on ARM and messing with the Macs, which aren't a big product category for them, but they have to have them for developers and for editors and people like that. Marques Brownlee is never going to use, I don't think Marques Brownlee is ever going to move his 8K workflow to an iPad Pro. Or am I nuts?
No.
Jonathan Morrison has, but it's
has he really?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, he did it. He did a demo of it with LumaFusion.
But he wouldn't do it all the time. Probably, right?
Yeah, but having seen all these videos, it does make me a little bit melancholy because I feel as though what we're seeing today in iPadOS 13.4 and to a lesser extent the new hardware, we're seeing what macOS could be if Apple could get themselves as excited about desktop OSs as they were about iOS. I really do think there's a dogmatic thing inside Apple where iOS is the future. ARM processors are the future. macOS is important and it's wonderful and we love it, but this is the boring four-door family sedan that we will continue to sell because they continue to sell, but we are more excited about these high performance hybrid whatevers. That the fact that the Mac is still, I still feel like it's a very stodgy platform. I love it. I use it daily and I have no desire to switch from it, but you compare it to Linux builds, you compare it to even Chrome OS, you compare it to Windows these days, and it really does feel like we're back in 2002, 2003. So this is why I'm very happy for what's been happening with the iPad. I'm seriously considering. I bought the first generation iPad Pro as soon as it came out, and I haven't upgraded it since because it's been doing so well for me. I'm considering buying a new iPad Pro this fall maybe, based on how important the improvements since all those years ago are. But nonetheless, I can't help but think that God, how much better could the Mac be right now if only there were people who are as passionate about moving that platform forward and making it competitive and making it 2 steps ahead of the competition, as well as they're dogmatically tied to making sure the iPad Pro has that position inside the industry. It just makes me a little bit sad.
The problem with changing Mac OS, though, is that you have to remember that a lot of people are very reliant on exactly how it already works. And when you make major changes and you switch things up really crazy, that interrupts our workflow. That interrupts literally what we do with our lives. And not everybody is, great at adapting to new things. So I think that Apple does still do this and still does love Mac OS, but they roll out major feature changes in very small increments so that it doesn't negatively affect our day-to-day use of our Macs. So it's just going slower, but it is still happening. And I think it's good that it's going slower, because I would hate to wake up one morning and not be able to figure out how to use my computer and just sit there. I think that does happen with Windows a lot. When major Windows updates happen, people have been in the past like, where's that button that I've always known where it was, or that drop-down menu? And that's just a bad user experience. So I think Apple is still working with Mac. They're just rolling it out slower.
And those are good points. What was a real eye opener for me as a user was when I started using my ThinkPad like as in the regular rotation, as opposed to it used to be just the thing that would be on a shelf uncharged, and I would charge it up whenever I needed to test something that was Windows only and I couldn't run it on my Mac in emulation. And the more that I started to realize that I had one of the newer MacBooks with the 0.58 millimeter travel keyboard for a couple months at a time, 2 times, and the number of times it occurred to me that I like the Mac more than I like Mac OS more than I like Windows 10, but I don't like it so much more that I would not switch to this ThinkPad full time if Apple decided that we are never, ever, ever making a MacBook with a keyboard that I like. And that scared me, that the idea that they would ever be so close, that I would so close in Windows and Mac would be so close in features and usability to me, and the quality for me of the hardware would be such a gulf that I would even consider switching under those circumstances. That really made me think that Apple has really not been pushing themselves to develop Mac as hard as they would. And to be fair to Microsoft, they had an even bigger installed base than Mac OS, and switching, making multi-touch and making the new UI part of the Windows experience. That was a long, hard road filled with screws and nails, in which everybody was saying, "Oh my God, this sucks so hard! Like, thank God, I'm telling people don't upgrade," and people sticking with Windows 7 for as long as they possibly could before it took, I keep using the saying because I like the saying, before Windows found the car keys. There's a time where they're fumbling and they're padding pockets. They're really not. You wonder if they're ever going to get going. But at some point they get it all together. In which, okay, great, now we can put on our coats because it looks like Dad and Mom actually have the keys to the car. And we're actually going somewhere.
All right, now you could talk about the trackpad.
Let me tell you, I have it installed right now on my iPad.
Yeah, look, it's all, everything's rebooting. There's no point. 13.4 on the iPhone, you said don't bother? No, you want the fixes, but that's not the touch.
And you want the Memoji, of course.
Yes, but the touch this is all about the touch.
I've got the Bridge keyboard hooked up to it right now, and there's a couple of little things that are really great. Now, literally, I installed this right before we got on camera, so I have not had a lot of time to play with it. But there's one thing that I like about the usability of this now. So the little bar that appears at the bottom of your iPhone or iPad and that you use to swipe up, if you use a trackpad, all you have to do is hover over that line and tap. And that does the same thing as the swipe up. You don't have to swipe up anymore. You just tap your trackpad and it does the swipe up for you. That is a primo little addition. That was one of my pain points with the older cursor, was that I would have to press down on the trackpad and use the other finger to swipe up. But it's a very awkward experience. You don't have to do that anymore. You also, when you hover your cursor over an app, the app kind of grows a little bit. It highlights a little bit. It's very, very nice looking.
I love the way buttons, the arrow turn, the ghost, John Syracuse's ghost finger turns into a button when you hover over a button.
Yeah.
These are things that a Mac doesn't and probably wouldn't ever do, that makes a lot of sense. They
didn't port it over. They did a whole new concept and design for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Lory. I feel like this is an improvement, and I feel like this is going to be. They were right. I almost don't want to admit this. They were right not to put touch on Mac OS. Is that nutty to say?
No.
Well, no. I mean, they didn't have to. Like, Windows literally had to make. They had no choice.
They had nothing to do.
Apple
with
is stuck. Google only has new operating systems. Microsoft only had a functional old operating system, which they brought forward, and Apple sort of has both, and is trying to. And a lot of stock people would love them to just get rid of the Mac and focus on iOS for their bottom line, but they love the Mac. It's not going anywhere yet, and so they're maintaining that, and they're working on this new thing, and that's sort of a rock and a hard place in terms of making both things do everything.
Lory, can I just plug in a mouse? You have that Bridge keyboard, which isn't out yet.
Yeah, you can. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, as soon as you connect with Bluetooth, you don't even have to plug it in, but even with Bluetooth, it automatically just finds it. Nice. You don't have to go into any settings or anything. It just automatically grabs it and finds it, and then you'll see a little light colored dot or like a transparent dot will appear on your screen.
Can I use
There's
my
one
magic
exception.
trackpad?
If it's already paired, you have to.
Yes.
I believe you have to unpair it from the old thing before it'll work on the new thing.
So it doesn't pair to multiple devices.
Right. I don't believe so. No.
Okay. But I can't. I have a magic trackpad I've never used because I really don't like it. But
and you can connect to your magic trackpad. One of my coworkers was using that in the beta. Yeah.
And can I just say, I'm sorry that I did a spoiler at the beginning of the show because I was just so excited about it.
Say it again.
That I was partly thinking that I'm sure that Apple wants to create the best consumer experience they possibly can, and that would mean that if they think that the best consumer experience means that this feature will only work with Apple branded like touch hardware, like the Magic Keyboard and the $350 keyboard cover, I could see that happening out, and I would mourn it very, very horribly. But to find out that it does work with like USB mice, it works with Bluetooth mice. Not only that, but it works. I'm getting conflicting reports, but my understanding is that it works on every single iPad Pro model, including the one that I bought in 2016 makes me, and that I don't need, and that even on some newer iPad minis, that makes me so happy.
Anything that can run iOS 13.4, it should work with.
Yep, which is just absolutely awesome. And I hope I wasn't being cynical, and I'm just bracing myself for, let's not make this exclusive to the iPad Pro 2019, 2020, but.
And I also think that it gives Apple some freedom to charge whatever they're going to charge and build whatever they want to build. It's the same thing as their new monitor with the stand. They want to build a stand that looks a certain way and acts a certain way, and so they're going to build it at the level that they want to build it at. But they didn't make you pay for it when you bought it, and they said anybody else can build something for it. And I think that in many ways frees Apple to let their attention to detail free. And charge whatever what it costs to do it.
It's a great thing for the entire Apple line, because I will never stop at least nudging Apple, saying, "Oh, dang, it's too bad that your cheapest MacBook is still kind of at the middle price structure, or even at the start of the high price structure for notebooks." But I can give them a lot of slack for that, because if you are on a budget, you can spend $329 plus now like $30 for a Bluetooth keyboard, $20 for a Bluetooth mouse, and get something that, for the expectations of someone who would be going into a store to spend $450 on a notebook, would give them an experience that's as good as anything you could buy for less than $500 and better than most of them. So I will always say, gee, I really wish Apple could find a way to make a $600 or $700 notebook, but I can't complain that hard when they create something as incredibly impressive as the $350 iPad and charge $350 for it.
Okay, you convinced me.
I'll take two in black.
I have a feeling we're going to see the Apple Magic Keyboard with trackpad for iPad. I think we're going to see it for the regular iPads, not just for iPad Pro.
And maybe
I
a
know
less
it's
expensive
really expensive
one without the cantilever, maybe, or
maybe something like that, or maybe even the exact same price point. And just, if you want the $350 iPad and a $300 keyboard to go with it, here you go.
It's a lot less ungainly than having a separate keyboard and a separate trackpad or mouse.
And Logitech is making them, and a bunch of third parties are going to make the trackpad keyboards for all the iPhone, all the iPad models.
Oh, interesting.
Apple made so many iPad users happy, not just by having a trackpad and trackpad support, by designing this $350 Magic Keyboard cover that you can actually put it on your lap and use it on your lap for the first time in iPad history, practically. That shows that they weren't just saying, "Hey, look, why are we charging this much money for a keyboard cover? Let me explain about the grade of aluminum that we're using on this hinge." It's like, no, we've actually thought about it. We've made this for the people who actually want to spend money on the best execution of this concept. We've got it for you.
I think one of the greatest ideas for why I think that they created the hovering display is so that they could maximize the amount of space that the keyboard and trackpad fit on.
Right.
Because you're not limited by, you have to cut off the keyboard in order for the screen to
look how much you lose
comfortably
on this.
Yeah.
So
and
if you raise this up, you can have a whole lot more space.
Yeah.
For
and
real size
trackpad,
keys. Yeah.
And you want a good trackpad that has space. It doesn't have to be as big as the trackpad on the new iPad Air or something like that. But that's one of the most important things, in my opinion, is that trackpad needs to be comfortable for all of your fingers to do the things that you want them to do with all that multi-touch gesturing and stuff. So it was really incredibly smart for them to widen that that space that you use.
Yeah. Let's take a break because we haven't even gotten to the MacBook Air yet.
The redheaded stepchild, the Mac, always the last to be mentioned.
I was so excited. I am a MacBook Air fan.
Yes.
And to make a more powerful MacBook Air with a keyboard I can use, that's huge for me. So we'll talk about that. And gold, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, I want to talk about keyboards. Yeah, I know you're all keyboard fanatics. You know, the Apple keyboards have come and gone, but there's a company, Matias, created by a keyboard fanatic like us, Edgar Matias, and he is keeping alive all of the original Mac keyboard styles and designs. If you liked, I really like the mechanical clicky keyboard that came with the old iMacs. I loved those. You can get these beautiful aluminum keyboards. This is, I think, one of their best sellers right now. This is the wired aluminum 10 keyless. So they have with 10 key, you know, if you're, you know, entering a lot of numbers or without. And I just want it without, so it's a little more compact. Beautiful aluminum construction. Backlit. I love this feature. It's got a little dial here that I can choose the color of the backlighting. It goes through the whole spectrum, and I can just, you know, scroll through it. Plus, these are made for Macintosh. Now, you can use these with other operating systems. In fact, they have one keyboard that has 4 Bluetooth buttons. It does multi-point pairing. You press button 1, that could be, let's say, your Mac. Button 2 could be a Windows machine. Reassigns all the keys to be Windows-specific or Mac-specific. I love it, though, that I can get a keyboard that doesn't have you know, the Windows key where the command key should be. It has all the right function keys, expose, brighter and darker, the media control functions, the speaker function. It's got a backlight key, too, which you can turn on and off. I just think this is the greatest keyboard ever. And, man, does it feel good. Matias, you want to get your keyboards from a keyboard fanatic like Edgar Matias. They have a complete range of options to choose from. They've been making keyboards since 1989. I think it was back then that Edgar said, I want to make a better keyboard for the Mac. He's always been a Mac fanatic. They've been specializing in keyboards designed to work properly with a Macintosh. No drivers or anything. You plug it in, and it works exactly as you'd expect it with the fan key and everything. They said they've purposely focused on making products Apple doesn't offer because they want to give you more choices. You know, you get a keyboard with your Mac, but maybe you'd like something a little better. Backlit wireless, for instance. Beautifully designed to look just like they belong to the Mac. There's a programmable. You want ergo? You don't like, maybe you have carpal tunnel. Lisa really likes the ergo keyboards because she's had surgery on one wrist for carpal tunnel, and tilting those wrists isn't healthy, but leaving them at a natural angle. The split ergo keyboard has a beautiful, spacious palm rest made of that gel, the memory gel, so it's just comfortable as heck. And they've got them in wired. They've got them in wireless. They've got ergonomic. They have backlighting. They've got a complete range of keyboards for you to choose from. The function keys work exactly as you'd expect. No loss of functionality. Nothing new to learn. It works right out of the box. The best seller, though, is that wired aluminum keyboard I showed you. By the way, it even comes in gold. If you happen to like gold, I do. It's a worthy successor to Apple's. You'll be very happy with it. Oh, I should mention one other feature I really like because it's wired. It has 2 USB ports on either side, one for your mouse and one for, let's say, a USB key or whatever. That's really great. And since I'm a lefty, I love it that there's a USB port on the left as well as on the right. That's a huge help for me, so I don't have to make the mouse cord go all the way around. If you've got a PC, though, don't forget, Matias has a keyboard for you, too. Some of the best PC keyboards I've ever used. And I really love, if you have multiple computers, the multi-point pairing and the ability to switch the keyboard to up to 4 different devices. Right there is great. Their tech support comes right out of their offices in Aurora, Canada. I think that's important. When it comes to tech support, I want Canadians. I like how they are. Janet and Carmela and the whole gang there, they're friendly, they're nice. They'll answer any questions you have. So don't hesitate. Go over to the website. It's matias.ca, M-A-T-I-A-S, matias.ca/MacBreak. Check out the Matias keyboards. They're very affordable. Find something that fits your style, fits your budget. And I know you'll be happy. I've talked to a lot of people who've upgraded to Matias. Matias.ca/MacBreak. Matias.ca/MacBreak. You're going to love your Matias keyboard. I know I do. It's what I use here. That's what I use at the office. I don't have the clickety one here because I don't want anybody to know that I'm typing in Google searches. But I do have the clicky one at home because I really like a big, deep, long travel keyboard with a nice, solid click on it. And you get your choice. Matias.ca/MacBreak. All right, speaking of keyboards, the MacBook Air is back, baby. So excited. Mine comes on the, I guess, next week, on the 25th. No, that's the iPad comes the 25th. Mine comes next month.
I have to admit, this is the first one where I looked at the price of it, and I looked at the price of the iPad, and I was like,
the price is right, though, right? $999.
Right, but I'm just kind of like the more limited horsepower than the Pro. I was kind of like, I don't like. It'd be really.
So
I think we're
my
getting
question.
to the point where I'd be really hard between the iPad and the Air.
Look at
you
that.
just have to really
think
about what.
Renee says, "Look at the keyboard."
Just look at that keyboard.
Oh, you got gold. I'm glad.
I have never felt so acknowledged and loved by Apple. I was saying, first, okay, Andy, we can't admit that we've been listening to you about having a trackpad for the iPad. We can't admit that the keyboard, like you said, was a failure from the start. But can we make it up to you by at least correcting these errors? I feel acknowledged and loved. That's all.
Yes, you are indeed. $999 is a big price point. That's a $200 drop from last model, right? The 2018 model. $899 education. I think that's a really important price point to hit in education.
Yeah.
To your point,
that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. To your point, though, Alex, it is a Y processor, not a U processor, so it's not a super powerful processor. What do you think, Renee? How's it feel?
Yeah, so if you want performance, you're going to want the MacBook Pro, and you're probably going to want to wait until the new 13/14-inch MacBook Pro comes out, because those will use 10th generation U-class Intel processors. This is 10th generation, so Intel is not back on their roadmap. They're about a lap, 2 laps, 3 laps behind, but they're starting to actually run again. So this is on their 10-nanometer process, finally. It's no longer on the 14-nanometer. It's Intel Ice Lake.
And that means better battery life, lower heat, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, people are still on YouTube complaining about throttling if you get the i7 version, but I will humbly submit that that's a 2% of the MacBook Air buyers' problem.
Right. Should you not get the i7? Should you get the i5?
No, I mean, like,
at least you have a choice now. You didn't have a choice last time.
Well, the last time the differences between the various SKUs was not something that Apple was interested in what's the right word, condoning, or like there wasn't a big difference between the chip. This year there's a big difference because they go quad core, and that's that's 2 additional cores. It was really like the old one was Intel like, okay, this is not a very good version of the main chips, we'll just clip this and ship it as an i3, and Apple's like, no thanks. Like, no, we'll just use the i5.
I would neither condone you nor do I judge you. I simply accept you into the product line as you are.
And just, I mean, like the one thing that's, I mean, for a lot of people, testing these things is downloading Geekbench, pressing a button and saying, oh, and they have no idea what like thermal throttling is or what workloads are or what's bursty and what's sustained. It's because it doesn't work that way. So instead of loading like just a bunch of different Chrome tabs or I decided to run 4K. I want to peg it the same way I run Pokemon Go on phones to see what they do at their absolute worst. I run 4K. I took 4K raw light footage and I converted it to ProRes and I just let it run, and it worked. Like I could still keep editing in Final Cut Pro. It was fine. The export took 2.5 hours for 15 minutes, which is like 5 times slower than the i9 in my MacBook Pro. So like if you're doing events and you want to get that video up right away, you do not want this laptop. But if you're doing like your vacation footage or you're doing like some music, if you're using a MacBook Air in the way that it's intended to be used, then these are great. I would recommend the i5 because I never recommend an i3. I just try not to. And the i7 is probably wasted on people who don't need those, who don't have super high bursty workloads like some of the developers will have that might benefit from not very long sustained, but at least very short sustained peak performance. That'll be fine. But I think for most people, the i5 is really the sweet spot. And that's the price of the old, of the discounted previous model, like $1099. So it's a pretty good update.
I'm happy.
That is a magic price point.
Yep. It is, because I knew when I worked on the board at a 1-to-1 school. It was a high school that provided a laptop to all incoming freshmen. As soon as the MacBook went over on $999, they had to go to Windows. That says something about that price point. They just don't want to go over $1,000. So
and they all start that way. They were all super expensive when they first come out, and then Apple drops the price after a couple of years.
And this is the perfect student laptop, I would say, right?
Fixed keyboard, fixed performance. I mean, those are some of the big ticket items right there.
And
that's
fixed price.
And according to iMore, it'll work with the Pro Display XDR if you want to spend another $5,000 or $6,000.
Why not?
Definitely make the MacBook an accessory for the screen, or an accessory for the stand.
It's a way of showcasing super compressed display, which is a technology that's in these chipsets. So it's using Intel Iris Plus, and it can do super compressed displays. So that's just a way of highlighting that.
So yeah, I don't know why, I just love the MacBook Air. Honestly, I love the MacBook. I love the really small form factor, but I just can't use those keyboards. So a MacBook Air with a good keyboard, or a decent, it's not good.
2 USB-C.
Decent.
2 USB-C.
One on either side. That's better than
no. It's not on either side, sadly.
They're both on the same side.
The headphone jack is on the other side. It's just cheaper and easier to make a bus that has 2 ports on one side rather than 2 buses that have them separated on either side.
It's okay. My hyperdrive dongle it has 2 USB-Cs, right? Like Lory, you're the one who told me to buy it, so that's fine. It's slate gray, not gold. I'm a little bummed. It's not going to match. Okay, fine.
So which one did you get? What model? How much?
I did exactly what Rene said not to do. I got the i7. 16 gigs is enough. I wish I could put more RAM in it. And I really couldn't bring myself to buy all that extra hard drive space, so I think I did 512, which is enough. It's enough.
Yeah, it's the perfect background. I think that's and that's the point with the iPad Air is it's the MacBook for everybody. It's the one that we're supposed to, the people who aren't out there trying to, process massive amounts of video, they get the MacBook Air.
Yeah.
That's 90% of us, right?
I want something light. I can carry it around. I can put it on my lap. I can surf the net, answer my email.
Especially if you also have a desktop computer, that you definitely don't need something like a MacBook Pro if you also have some iMac or iMac Pro or Mac Pro. So it's the perfect computer for most people.
Yeah. Also, because it's no joke that the iPad Pro is one of the most powerful computers that Apple makes, particularly at its price point. But nonetheless, the simple fact that the MacBook Air runs a conventional desktop operating system with a conventional, for Apple anyway, relationship between data and files and apps makes it, if you can only afford one computer, which I think defines a lot of people, that means that is going to be your go-to device. That as much as you might admire the iPad Pro, as much as you might lust after it, it's going to cause enough headaches even in 2020 that it's still, the conservative choice is still going to be to buy a $1,000 laptop, even opposed to a $900 iPad Pro. So I think it's very, very important that Apple still make sure that they can compete at that level, because the people who can't afford a $2,000 MacBook today are the people who are going to be able to afford a $10,000 desktop Mac Pro in 5 years. You got to make sure that you define their tastes so that they're not willing to accept anything less than a Mac in the future.
And I think that this is a really great example of Apple doing this well, unlike when they switched to the MacBook Pro and took away all of the things that we liked out of it, where they could have just taken half at one time. You could have just put USB-C on one half and got everybody started, and then take away our MagSafe and all of our other things the next time you round. It could have been just or let us keep it for a while. Instead, we're seeing this thing where we're seeing the iPad Pro come up to speed, and we're seeing all the things slowly be added to it. But we still have a choice to get a MacBook Air. And so I think that leaving people with that choice and not forcing them over the cliff into something that you think is progress is definitely the right way to go here.
Yeah, it appears that they made a tactical error by removing all the things that we like from the MacBook Pro. They did keep a hands on those and that color screen instead of going to this mono twist black and white. But they figured out they really figured out how to step on as many rakes in as short a time as possible with one release.
I mean, it's funny because I just love I love my MacBook Pro, and I think that part of the reason that I don't love it anymore is because I just felt like they really screwed it up. And I just
did you get the 16-inch, the new one?
No, I've used a 16-inch. I haven't bought it. Yeah. You know, like I just use my iMac and the thing. I'm just like I need it when I need it. I have access to them when I need them for jobs. So if I need that, I can do it. But I've got a fast iMac, and I just, you know, the thing is that it's like all these dongles and it's all these bits and pieces, and they took away my MagSafe. I literally just don't feel safe. I don't want something sticking out. Like I want something that the MagSafe was like this thing that I knew that if something popped on it, it would pop out. And I know that there are people, every time I mention this on MacBreak, I get a whole bunch of tweets that say, hey, this company has this little thing, but it's still like this little nub. And I travel all over the place and I throw my computer into my backpack and I don't want it to bend.
Right.
You know, because as soon as it bends, it's over, you know, and I'm afraid that little nub is going to get pulled the wrong way. And it is, and I just, you know, I haven't, you know, I have plenty of power with other computers at home, and I haven't needed to travel as much as I used to, and so I just didn't bother because it's just I'm still frustrated. I'm still bitter. 4 years later, I'm just like screw those guys.
And nobody can be happy on MacBreak Weekly with their Macs. Everybody was complaining about the keyboard, and the keyboard is getting fixed, and now there's a new thing that's popping up.
That's just him.
Well, it's not new. It's not new. There's a lot of us that have complained about the MagSafe. Wait, I just want to point out, the MagSafe complaint is day one. You know, like it was you know, like there's a lot of people who are road warriors that was like they took away what? Like the best differentiator other than the operating system of the computer is the MagSafe. Yeah. And they took that away.
So are you like, it's like literally you won't buy a new MacBook until they put back in a MagSafe? Or is it just like you're in this sort of middle ground where you just don't need the new one, so you're not going to get a new one right now because you're kind of hoping they'll?
No, I'm not expecting it to get it back. I'm just not in a rush to do it. Like I don't need it right now. My laptop does what I need it to do. When I do heavy lifting, I use my iMac. When I do really heavy lifting, I have some Linux and PC boxes. You know, and I'm probably going to end up getting a Mac Pro. It's just that my laptop. The other thing that happened is that I let my laptop go long, and now I use my iPad. When I go out, I take my iPad out. Like I don't take unless there's something unless I think there's some app that I need, you know, so if I'm on the road and I'm going to need to do something in Photoshop or I'm going to need to do something in Final Cut, I'm going to take my laptop and it's fine. Like it does what it needs to do. I'm not in a rush. I understand what it can do and what it can't do. I can do what it does what it needs to do. When I needs to do something faster, I do it at home. And when I need, when I'm most days, 99% of the time when I walk out the door, I just have my iPad, you know, and I don't need the computer anymore. And so, and I think that part of it, and so it just hasn't fit a new, you know, expending money on a new, you know, on a new laptop just hasn't been something I needed to do since it came out.
It really does kind of change the geometry of these decisions. I was a devoted daily iPad Pro user, even when I had to. Every time I went to the coffee shop or whether I was going to New York for a couple of days on business, every time I'd have to, okay, I got my little easel, unfold that. I've got my iPad, put that up, turn it on. I got my keyboard, turn that on, make sure that's paired. Even like I would still love it day after day after day. But as soon as I used the Pixelbook for the first time, the Google Pixelbook, I didn't like Chrome OS nearly as much as I liked iPad OS. Certainly didn't like the apps nearly as much. But the simple idea of having a device that cost about actually a little bit less, and also was just as compact, but I could just simply put it on the desk, lift the lid, and I've got a working machine with a trackpad that I could also like fold around again and use just as an easel. That trumped all that other software stuff. But now the ability it really does change the calculus now that I can have that kind of usability with what I consider best in class productivity apps, not just mobile apps, but productivity apps on this thing. But it does go to show that it's hard for Apple to make everybody happy. And as much as I complain about the things that are important to me, because hopefully a year or two from now, Rene and I will stop having the discussion about how I use that flat keyboard and I love it, and I have to say, well, I can't even use it all. The same conversations that you and I have, Alex, are about MagSafe, because the best thing to ever happen to me is when like I actually like shift in my chair a little and then not have to reach down to the floor, pick up the MagSafe connector that popped out simply because I shifted in my chair and plug it back in again. And I know you have great reasons for wanting the MagSafe, including like not destroying comparing a $2,000 notebook. But it's like the amount of like psychiatrist bills I have had to pay dealing with my anger issues of not being able to move this damn thing without that thing popping out. I think I'd be at least $180 ahead.
I put my laptop on my lap cross-legged and it would pop MagSafe off every time.
So apparently Alex never puts his laptop in his lap. That's the problem.
I don't.
It's not making money when it's in his lap. It's only making money when it's on a desk.
Well, and I think that I went through probably 2 or 3 laptops where, but not through them, but I had to have them repaired, or I ended up just buying another one because the power supply, someone tripped over it. Like in production, you've got your power supply somewhere, in a back room, and it's poorly lit, and people trip over things all the time. And so I just have a lot of scar tissue where it comes to my power being pulled out of my computer when I didn't expect to, and it being bent, and then you're in production and you can't charge it.
Yeah.
So literally this is the first time, I bought almost every laptop that Apple has made new, like within a month after they released it, unless it was back ordered, for 15 years.
Honestly, this is where, as Mac OS users, you're at a disadvantage because it's only Apple that makes this hardware. They have to make choices. They can't make two, one with a MagSafe, one without. Yeah. They're never going to do that. So they're going to go with the largest, the biggest audience or whatever criteria they use. In the PC world, there's all kinds of form factors to choose from.
And I'll eventually get a new one. Mine is dying, so it's right now it's a switcher controller for the most part.
There's nothing like a MagSafe in the PC world, as far as I know. But I don't think anybody makes. Like that anymore.
I feel like if they're not going to use it anymore, they should just open source
it.
Just give it away. Let go of the pattern, let everybody use it because and then they'll see MagSafe on every computer except for theirs, and then they'll feel really smart.
No, it won't. It's only you, Alex. And then the poor Mac Mini, which in all of this discussion, nobody ever mentions. There's an updated Mac Mini. Anything to say about it?
I mean, I was really hoping that they would update the processor.
More room.
Yeah, but it's still 8th generation silicon, and that's I think that Apple needs to really happen.
Yeah, it shows their commitment, right?
No, I think that if they updated the silicon, it would show their commitment.
Oh. Well, then why did they release an updated Mac Mini?
I think because the price of storage has gone down to the point where they can put a much better baseline storage in it, and that's good for the customer. And I don't know who's clamoring for this, but I think they were so long between updates last time that just to get back some good faith, they should always make sure it has the latest silicon.
Well, that's what I mean.
They should do that for all their computers.
It's good faith. It's a good faith update. I don't know. It's comparing apples to oranges. People are saying, the new iPad Pro is faster than the MacBook Air. Can you compare them? Not really. They do different things.
Rene, you can compare them. You literally have them both. What do you think?
Mac OS is bound to Intel. So like if there was a mythical computer that ran Mac OS on ARM or a clamshell iOS device, I think it would blow Intel out of the water.
Yeah.
Apple has not missed a year when it's come to their silicon roadmap, and Intel's lost 3-4 years already.
Right.
So they're just way ahead when it comes to ultra-mobile silicon.
That would depend, though. There is such a thing as appropriate for your workflow, and it's possible that the limitations of iOS compared to another desktop OS would be big enough. There'd be enough pains in the butts to say that whatever you gain in CPU performance and system performance, you lose in terms of simple convenience. So it's hard to. It's like you said earlier. Like people do benchmarks and they say, we sent this to an independent lab and we've proven that this number is higher than this other number. Therefore. But you can't do that. It really takes a couple of weeks of hands-on before you realize that here is what is slowing me down, or here's something that used to be a big pain to the neck that I no longer have to deal with, and that alone is making this worth the upgrade price.
Totally fair. I was just imagining a beautiful mythical world where you had your choice. But if you look at them now, there's a T2 chip in here, and for years Apple has had to route some of what they do is they have a performance controller that takes a bunch of the stuff that Intel still can't do and routes it to the T2 chip instead. For example, like H.265 rendering and some of the accelerate. So you're getting an ARM coprocessor in this, and it's doing faster than any Intel can do on its own. It's just not doing all the x86 compatible stuff.
Plus, I wish my MacBook had as good a camera as the new iPad Pro, or at least
it's basically a potato right now.
That's a good point. They've really left those eyesight cameras to twist in the vine in the wind.
we had a lot of discussions about this on Twitter. I think a couple of us were going back and forth about this, and I just feel like this gets back into the opposite direction that I would normally go, which is that I don't think that they should move the price of the SKU up to support what a very small percentage of people want. That most people don't notice. I mean, I can tell you because we have processed. We do remote events, right? What do we call centerless events? We've processed 4,000 to 5,000 people in the last decade, and most people don't notice that they don't have anything that's worth looking at, and this is every laptop. So most people don't care. Most people don't know. The people who do buy an external one, they buy a stream cam or they buy a Logic, a C920 or whatever they're going to buy, in those, or a higher end piece. And I think that you externalize that cost and let the people who care buy it, and put something in that's adequate.
We're seeing a lot of bad Skype videos on the news channels this week. I mean,
one of the problems is that I had to buy a bunch of we had some events coming up, and I have to buy a bunch of webcams. All of the C920s, 922s, and stream cams are sold out.
April
everywhere.
Yeah,
not a single place.
Yeah.
It's not that they're sold out. It's that Amazon is prioritizing essentials.
No,
they're really gone.
Even on Logitech, they're not. They're
okay.
They're out of stock.
We can't get things like headsets either on Amazon because
so all the things that are good, it's because everyone who cared bought them really fast because they were like, oh my gosh, I got to do this, and then everyone else is like, oh no, I can't, I don't know how to do that, and and so
so you're saying it's the work at home movement that sold these things out, that like people jumped on and said, oh, I know what I need.
I think that there's two problems. One problem is that they're all made in China,
right?
And so there's supply chain issues that are then hammered by incredible demand spikes. Because they're really the only.
General Motors went out and bought 4,000 of them and wiped them out in one swell.
I wouldn't be surprised because I don't think that there's not a lot of competition right now between Logitech and everybody else. I mean, the other cameras are they're a little bit better than your laptop,
right? And
all the Logitech ones, when the 920, the 922, the Stream Cam, and the Brio are the four that if you care, that's what you buy as far as a webcam.
Or you use a point and shoot or a. I mean, there are,
my thing is
but for an average person, who wants to do that.
People were calling me, though. Somebody called me on the radio show yesterday, said, how do I use my point and shoot for a webcam?
I got asked how to use an iPhone for a webcam. I just don't think it's like, this is the iPhone company. And it's like back when the Macs had terrible speakers. You're the iTunes company. And I know when the Macs get True Depth, this will be a fixed problem because the True Depth RGB camera is just better than this. And I know the lids are super, I don't care. Apple should never have a bad camera. I just don't think it's acceptable. And you shouldn't have to buy an external one.
Can you, if you connect your iPhone, I know QuickTime, we showed this today on iOS Today, QuickTime will pick up the iPhone as a camera. Will Skype, can you use your iPhone?
I handed it off to Alex. I asked him if you could use the HDMI out into an HDMI capture and then route it back into Skype. That's such a kludge.
I was like, I better test that. Before I responded to that.
No, but he was just,
I was like, I'm going to think about that.
Just connecting his Lightning to his computer, and then at least QuickTime is able to see the iPhone as a camera.
I don't think
but
Skype
the question also is
maybe not Skype.
When we're talking on Skype, we also have to deal with audio. So unless you're taking the audio from your phone, you're going to have an issue where the sync is dramatically different.
Well, that's normal anyway.
So it's going to be a big bummer.
It's a mess. Yeah, fix the potato camera. We all agree on that.
Except for Alex. Who just wants the MagSafe.
He's like, make fries, kids.
Somebody got in the chat room and said, I logged into the chat room just to say I agree with Alex.
Okay, good. You got somebody on your side.
We're working from home now, and FaceTime is built in, and this is the only human connection we have, and we should look good to each other.
Yes, I agree.
You should. No, I'm not disagreeing that you should look good. I just think that if you care about looking good, you should buy a real camera. It's just 6K. Like that.
Well, but they put array mics in the MacBook and now in the iPad so that you'd sound better.
Which I also think is
not good.
A waste of money.
Also, can I just be the first one to say what everyone is thinking, that if all Alex had to live stream with was a potato, he would get at least 1080 HD and it would be perfect.
I'd get the most out of that potato.
It'd be a really good potato.
Give him a red russet and he's good to go. No excuses.
Wow. We didn't even mention COVID once in this show. I want to congratulate you all. Yeah. A couple of other Apple stories real quick. The Afterburner card, which was made for the Mac Pro, is now available as a standalone. Who would buy that? besides Alex?
Anyone using ProRes.
ProRes. What does it do?
ProRes Accelerator. It accelerates ProRes rendering.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're exporting a big movie, it makes it a lot faster. I'm not sure exactly what the X is, but it's a lot.
New watch bands and iPhone cases. Rene Ritchie, of course, cares a lot about that.
Rene, do you have the watch band to show off?
No, I switched to the Rally.
It's very, very pretty. I like it.
What is it?
Just one of the new colors.
Yeah, the new colors are all pretty. They have this one now for the black Hermes as well, Leo, if you've been dying for the with black lugs.
Pretty.
Yeah.
Very pretty. Yeah. Micah Sargent, always the fashion plate, actually changed the lugs on one of his band because it didn't match the watch. And he wanted it, you don't want a two-tone lug. That would be disgusting.
If I looked like Micah, I would be doing that too.
If I were as cute as Micah, I'd want my lugs to match my watch as well. Here, let's see. Let me look at Rene's article here. I think I have it. This is so confusing for me to do all of this. Here we go. Pink. I'm gonna give you the normal guy colors. Pink, yellow. You got a blue with green, and one with holes in it that's got green.
I have the light gray with orange one too. I don't have it with me, but it's really nice.
And then I'm going to give you the official Apple colors: cactus, grapefruit, and surf blue.
Blue.
Oh, call it pink, guys.
It's pink.
Pink is a lovely color, and you don't need to make excuses for it.
Cactus.
It's not salmon. It's not.
Whoever saw
pink.
a pink cactus? All right.
Some of those mescaline field nights in the desert. Oh boy.
Grapefruit, I'll grant you. It's yellow. It's grapefruity. I do like the soft leather. What do they call those? I love those bands, the soft leather ones.
Yeah. Leather loop.
Leather loop. Nobody does that. That's Apple's. That's unique.
They're like yoga pants for your wrist. It's amazing.
Well, that's the stretch, the hook and loop ones. Mm-hmm. All right, nice new bands.
There's more. I think that's just like one picture of some of the colors. I think the loops, the nylon loop. I think there's a couple of varieties of the color on that one.
Yeah.
And I think the Nike band actually has a couple unique, if I remember, because I'm not a big fan of neon, and most of their band colors are neon, and they did put out a new color that didn't have neon in it. That I was really
World
impressed.
Indigo Lime Blast. That's the one we saw. And Hyper Crimson Neptune Green. There's also new modern buckles in, get ready, Raspberry and Deep Sea Blue, and the new Peacock Leather Loop. I'm guessing that's a light baby blue.
Yeah.
And then there's some new, as you pointed out, Rene, fancy leather single tour and double tour.
Yes. And some new prints.
Orange Swift leather and Noir Gala leather. Oh boy. It's a fashion business.
Yeah, and this is the new spring line, and there's a bunch of those colors are also have been introduced into the iPhone case lineup. So if you really want to match, if you want to be on fleek with your Apple products.
I haven't heard that phrase in a while.
Apple has
in Micah's honor.
Yes. Even Micah doesn't use that anymore. Apple rolls out universal purchase support for Mac and iOS apps. So if you're a developer that's been wanting to sell one app for both the Mac and iOS, now you can do it. Is anybody doing that yet? PCalc or anything like that?
I haven't
yet.
seen.
It was just announced.
Yeah.
Brand new. How's the supply chain? Foxconn says they got enough workers now to meet seasonal demand at all major Chinese plants ahead of schedule. That's good.
Yeah, the major bottleneck has been cleared up in that now they can actually get people moving, so they can get trucks moving from place to place. Also, they lifted like the most intense quarantine over the epicenter in Wuhan, I think.
Yes.
So and also, to be fair, the government has been sort of pressuring its ministers to try to get people back to work as soon as is humanly possible.
Well, you know what President Xi says? He says you don't want the cure to be worse than the problem.
God, no, because that would be horrible. They would be inhuman monsters. I'm glad we don't have people that in China or here. Thank goodness. Oh wait, I haven't checked my news today. Are you making a joke about what?
I am. Apple donates millions of masks. That's good to healthcare pros in the U.S. and Europe. What did they have these masks for? The car painting shop. Where did they find these? Or did they?
Were they hoarding them?
Apparently, no. They had them for for engineering and stuff. I don't know. They had some masks.
They're coming out. They're coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah,
people
which is
who
good.
just
We
have
need
thousands of them because they just need them for their jobs.
Yeah,
and remember that it is safety equipment for people who, if the person who is painting your cars, the people who are just drawing blood, they need these things at different facilities. So there are a lot of them that are still being squirreled away, and it's very, very brave of them to say that I'm not going to be able to do my job, but my job is inessential, and I will just simply send this box of 1,000 masks to someone who actually will use it to save lives. So it's a very, very laudable act on their part.
And actually, as evidence that maybe the supply chain is easing up, they have eliminated their limits on the number of phones you can buy. So go buy more. They're donating to Italy and Silicon Valley to help out there. 10% iTunes and App Store bonus as business and education app downloads jump 300% due to coronavirus. Apple Books offering a stay-at-home collection of free read-alongs for kids, cozy mysteries, and audiobooks. Audible's doing the same thing, by the way, our sponsor. And I guess we have covered the Apple news. Anything I missed? I think we focused on the new products. And there was a lot. Apple TV Plus is lowering its streaming quality along with YouTube and Netflix and others to keep networks in Europe from bogging down. I imagine a lot
YouTube just set the default to 480p.
Yeah, 480
so that's what you get now. If you go there, you get 480p standard.
Wow.
It's like we're going back in time.
And did you see the Apple retail sign that is going up for auction?
Ooh, it's so pretty.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah,
find
but
this.
it's like a 4 foot by 5 foot retail sign that was put together in 1977, 1978, according to the press release. And so it's not as though this was the original like One Infinite Loop or Banley Drive sign. It's just like a store made this and had it from the store in the late 70s. And it looks very pretty, but $20,000, you can have something made for a lot less than that, and to fit that nice space over your armoire.
Yeah, that seems a little expensive.
It's pretty.
It's pretty, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the old style. In fact, I was just showing. I have these. I probably could auction.
Maybe you can get $20,000 for your stickers.
Get $20 anyway. It's the same. It's the same thing with the same typeface and everything. Some fan had been. I think he worked at Apple. I think had been saving these all these years for me.
Yep.
Let's
retirement.
Yeah, right here in this envelope, $20,000 worth of Apple stickers.
See, this is where you call us hoarders until you were the only one who has a set of original Twiggy drives pulled from Elisa. In which case, you're an archivist. I'll give you $10,000 for those Twiggy drives.
Let's take a break. We're going to get your picks in just a second, folks. Get ready, line them up. But first, a word from LastPass. LastPass, of course, is the password manager we use and recommend and tell everybody in business and at home to use. They're the sponsors of our LastPass studios. They're the company that keeps me safe. I am a big fan, as you know, of LastPass. As you're preparing for your remote workforce, remember, you're sending employees home with the keys to the kingdom, the passwords to your bank accounts and your databases, to your websites. Transitioning from a full work to home environment can be complicated. LastPass is here to make the transition easier and, most importantly, without decreasing security. But right now, massive problem with phishing attacks. The bad guys love taking advantage of disasters. It's a disaster-tunity for them. And with those uptakes in phishing attacks with coronavirus subject matter, LastPass helps because they don't autofill passwords on suspicious websites. So if your employees don't have the password, which in most cases that's what you're going to want to do, they're never going to be able to give those credentials to some bad guy for any reason. They're not going to be fooled by a phishing attack. For remote employees who access the corporate VPN, LastPass has an additional layer of security directly to your VPN through its biometric multi-factor authentication. It's more than just fingerprints. It's more than just Face ID. There's geolocation. There's IP. There's all sorts of ways that you can completely control who has access to those vital assets thanks to LastPass. And regardless of where or how your employees need access, LastPass ensures they have secure access to their work applications with single sign-on. Employees love that. It's a lot easier than a password, and for you, a lot more secure. And, of course, the best password management in the biz. I've been using LastPass for 10 years. I trust LastPass so much because, the LastPass Vault I consider my secure enclave for everything I do, because only I can decrypt my LastPass Vault. It's only decrypted on device, and the keys never go to LastPass. No one except me has access to that master password, so I know I'm safe. That's why I put my passports in there, my driver's license, my social security number, my tax returns, anything I want to keep secure, I store in LastPass. LastPass offers offline mode for both password management and multi-factor. So even if your employees are off-site and can't get online, they still can access those important resources. It's great for seamless collaboration. You create a LastPass shared folder or you share a password directly. We have an ops folder. We have a business office folder. Makes it very easy for employees to securely share passwords across teams. There's intuitive admin and end user experiences. Means you get up and running in minutes, but you don't give up complete secure control. Your IT department has over 100 policies they can enforce. We enforce, for instance, two-factor authentication. Really important if you're letting those computers go out of the office. You want to make sure that a bad guy who has access to that computer can't get into those special things, because they'll also need the phone or the YubiKey or any one of a number of second-factor authenticators. You're really in control. I'm just a big fan of LastPass. I think you know that. Increased security does not have to be more complex. Start your journey today by visiting lastpass.com/twit. Find out how they can help you, especially now when you're sending employees out of the office. You're sending them home. You don't want them to be any less secure. You don't want your office, your business to be any less secure. You want LastPass. LastPass.com/twit. Time for our picks of the week. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's start with Rene Ritchie in the left-hand corner of the block. Oh, I got to turn on the mic.
I don't know if this is a sign of our times or just the way that I feel, but I've started going back to RSS, which I haven't used pretty much since Google Reader went away. And Brent Simmons has put out NetNewsWire for iOS, NetNewsWire 5 for iOS, following up on the fantabulous awesome. Mac it's app back, that he put out.
Yay.
What's so funny, Leo, and you'll appreciate this more than most, he says it's like podcast, but for your news, which is such an ironic statement.
It's a complete reverse, right?
Yeah, everything old is backwards again.
Yeah.
But
there's
just something.
Marketing.
It is good marketing.
There's something great about you choose the news sources that you rely and depend on. And of course, I never want to be in a bubble. I want to have multiple opinions, but I don't want, like, Twitter is an endless fire hose, and or Facebook, where you have relatives who still believe the Earth is shaped like a small pizza. Like it just doesn't matter. I get to pick exactly what I read. I pick varied sources that give me a lot of different, really informed, really educated opinions. They're all incredibly well laid out. They all sync between all of my devices. And it feels in a way like coming home, like when Yoda pulls the X-wing out of the swamp, and then you're just left with this beautiful starship that's giving you exactly what you need whenever you decide you need to go there. It's not pushed on you. It's not forced on you. It's not splattered all over you. It's just the news that you want to have in front of you, and it's been incredibly valuable to me for the last week or so that I've been using it.
Yeah, I love it. And you can export your. If you saved your Google News Reader OPML, yes. You can export that out and save it and import it into a NetNewsWire. It's the classic look. Brent, so it was a complicated story, right? He sold it.
He sold it to Black Pixel, and then he sold it to the company that he worked for, and then that company sold it to Black Pixel, and then Black Pixel went out of that business, and he bought it back, and now it's all Brent all the time now, and it will sync with Feedbin and with Feedly and with all those services as well. So you've been using something else. If you want to use multiple other whatever, like it's just he's one of the pioneers in this industry. He's one of the nicest people in this industry. Yes. And I also think, even though he doesn't, like, he's doing all this as a side gig while he works at Omni, I want to support as much independent software as I can right now as well.
That's really great. I'm going to import my Feedly, and I'll be ready to go. I think that's great. Thank you, Brent,
for
bringing back the classic NetNewsWire. Andy Ihnatko, your turn.
You might have heard, you might not have heard that the Metropolitan Opera is one of many different arts organizations that decided to start streaming its back catalog for free. That's normally a for-pay sort of thing while people are sort of cooped up at home. I've waited until this week to plug it because this week is Vagner Veek. The operas of Wagner, but you have to say Vagner, and it's Vagner Veek. We're recording on Tuesday. You're probably too late to get the replay of Tristan and Isolde. That was last night, but you are in time to see the entire ring cycle, starting with Das Rheingold, starting tonight with two of my favorites, Bryn Terfel, who is the bass baritone that commands, like, he's definitely going to be the first to be served at Starbucks if the orders are back. Where is my latte? And we will immediately serve him because he has that wonderful voice. Also, Stephanie Blythe is also one of the leads. Another one of my big favorites. I don't know. It's not like I recognize like most names of people in operas, but as soon as I see Bryn Terfel and Stephanie Blythe, it's like, okay, guess what? I know that I was planning on deciding not to go out tonight, but I'm specifically not going out tonight so that I can watch the ring cycle tonight, tomorrow, and the next day. You just go to medopera.org. There's a link right from the front page. You can also watch it through the MedOpera Stream in HD apps for Apple TV and other streamers. And the streams will be up for 24 hours, or maybe an hour less than 24 hours. I think their streams go live at 7:30, and they're up until 6:30 p.m. Eastern time the next day. So if you miss out in the evening, you can still get it all day tomorrow.
Nice.
So I've never actually watched the ring cycle. I don't think I've even heard more than excerpts of the ring cycle. And this is going to be there are captions, so you can actually read along in English. Also, I've learned in opera like years ago that it is not considered cheating to read the libretto, like read the storyline before you watch it, and that helps a lot. But I hope that if people are watching opera for the first time, they're used to like how it's presented in like comedies of the 30s and 40s and whatever. It's not like people dressed in like 300-year-old costumes and spear and magic helmet. It's like some of the most amazing and innovative staging and productions you'll ever see. So give it a try. You might like it. You might even if at worst, you might even just annoy the kids enough to leave the living room and leave the TV and the sofa for yourself. Either way, I think that's a win-win.
Nice choice. A little opera. By the time you finish the ring cycle, everything will be back to normal. Lory Gill,
you're allowed to stop. You're to pause and go pee whenever you want. It's not like the Lord of the Rings trilogy at the theater.
It's the other rings.
Yes.
Lory Gill, your pick of the week.
So I'm going to go against the grain and offer you up something that you have to spend money on, which I know is tough right now for people. So I hope I don't make anybody spend money that they don't have. But Mujjo or Mujjo, M-U-J-J-O, I've never been able to figure out how to pronounce it right. They have added a new color to their leather wallet iPhone case lineup, and it is called Slate Green. Ooh. And it is a really nice complement to your midnight green iPhone. It's really beautiful. Thin case, not ultra thin, but it's a thin case. It's covered in leather. It has one little pocket on the back for your credit cards. It's also already a little bit loose so that your card doesn't get stuck in there because it's too tight and you have to like let it loosen up. It's got, like the suede interior. The buttons are not machined. They're just kind of, they stick out a little. So you don't have a nice machined button like you do with an Apple case. But otherwise, everything about it is pretty extraordinary. And I just wanted to show you when you get back to the color of my iPhone versus the color of the case. Look how nice that is.
Perfect match.
Yeah, it's a really, really nice finish. So and that's from Micah, so make sure he sees that. If he's not already listening or watching right now, I think he's going to absolutely love that color. Mujjo.
It's 43 pounds and 24 pence or whatever it is. I don't know.
Something like $26. Or sorry, $46.
41 euros and 24 pence. Very nice. Very nice. I like wallet cases, actually. I'm kind of a fan.
Yeah.
And it's just the right size for your Apple Card, I noticed.
Yes. Yeah, you like that? I did that on purpose, by the way. That my Apple Card has been sitting in a little special case for a couple months now in my little curved case.
It's not going to get stained. I've been carrying it in a leather wallet for a long time. It'll be okay. It's fine. Yeah. Alex Lindsay. Oh, what?
I just got a text message from Micah. He's watching it. Thanks, Micah.
Thank you, Micah. Host of iOS Today and Smart Tech Today and Tech News Weekly. And now, Alex Lindsay from 090 Media. Something expensive, I'm sure. Oh, Alex, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. It ain't me. So I muted you earlier.
It's funny that I would talk. Yeah, so a lot of people have been asking about bits and pieces of how to improve their webcasts and their webinars and so on and so forth. And one of the things that I talk about a lot is the fact that you should wear some kind of some way to block your audio, headphones of some kind.
Right.
But you shouldn't put them over the ears is not the best look.
You mean like this? And you don't like that?
Hey, you can do it because you're a radio guy.
I'm a professional announcer.
Yeah, exactly. You got the radio look. It's all good. But but a lot of times if you're trying to do it subtly, you should use headphones, and it's really hard to use regular consumer headphones or consumer earpieces to do what you're doing. So I thought I would share at least what the standard is in broadcast if you feel like you need that, which is a company called Audio Implements. They're hidden in Wisconsin, and they calling them. It may be different now, but we've probably bought a couple hundred of these over the last decade, because we supply them to people who are on air, and it's like calling like the CIA or something. They're just like, hello, and you're like, I need a part 123, 127, and they're like, do you need it today? And you're like, yes, and they're like, okay, and then they hang up, and then it shows up, and it's like magic. But they're all business. They deal mostly with broadcast, so that's why they don't do a lot of PR in the area that you would probably see. But they are, they're just the what everybody uses, and so I'm wearing one right now. Let's see here. This is what I kind of use on the show.
Oh, nice.
So this is and what's interesting about it is that the speaker element is actually, and I won't be able to hear you when I pull this out. Hold on.
Don't say.
So this is the speaker element that comes out of the cord. So I'll talk for a second, then I'll put it back in.
Okay.
And so this is, there's a whole bunch of different pieces to it. So when you pull it out, when you pull it apart, so you can have a bunch of different kinds of cables that you might use, for it. So they stereo and mono and designed to go into all kinds of other audios. Then you have a speaker element that's this piece here. So then you pop this guy back in here, and then you might have a variety of these. And a lot of broadcasters will actually buy this, and a lot of the broadcasters we work with actually own their own version of this. They just have this one part, and then we bring this other part in, and that way they don't have to share ears, which is kind of gross. So let's see here. And then you
that weird guy Alex, you know who that weird guy Alex is, right?
Yeah. Well, there's actually
can you hear us again?
There's a whole theater that is done when you put one of these in someone's ear and they don't have the last piece, which is that I tell guys you can't clean the earpiece before they get there, or you can't replace it. We don't clean them. We throw them away. But the little earpiece at the very end, you have to change it while they're there.
So they know. So they know it's fresh.
Yeah, no. You're communicating that I'm taking it out of something that's there, and I'm putting it on, and so there's a whole process to how you hand someone an IFB. And so anyway, but this is audio. Now there's Auto makes another one that's a little less expensive. This is about $125, I think, somewhere in that range. Auto makes one that's I think about $45, which we've used a lot of too. But if you're looking for if you have someone that now that we're doing all these webinars said, I just need to know what to get, and I want it to be the audio, the industry standard. There's a lot of C-level folks that want to know what that is. This is the one.
Standard. I don't use less than the industry standard.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at how many people ask for that. They just want to know what are they using on CNN, or what are they using on ABC or Fox or whatever. And this is what just about all of them are using. So, anyways, I thought it'd be interesting for people to at least know what it is.
Aren't they mostly using professionally audiologist molded earpieces that?
Right, but that goes on the very end here.
So Cooper's using a generic earpiece.
No, but this end piece, you actually you send it. Audio Implements does that. So you put the little goo in your. I didn't do it with this one, but it's still the same. The mechanism is Audio Implements. The last earpiece they'll actually do for you.
Yeah,
it can be yours, and they'll actually make that.
There's another advantage to that because I'm wearing mine now. No one can wear it because it's made for my ear.
Right.
Yeah.
So they on the they produce those for you if you get the mold. You can go to anybody who builds earpiece.
Audiologists will do it. Yeah.
Audiologists will do the mold, and then they'll send it to Audio Implements, and they'll build that for you. Or they'll send you. I have a little. We get little boxes.
You shamed me into wearing my in-ears.
But if you're, if you're serious, the big takeaway is do something with, where you're wearing headphones, because part of the problem is that the echo cancellation that's being used in an open speaker is actually taking a bunch of stuff out of your audio.
It's terrible.
So what it's doing is that when you don't wear a headphone, you're not sending all your audio back. You're sending all your audio minus what it's hearing from the other side. And so we have a pretty clean sound because we're all using
we make you wear
almost
headphones.
All of us use files, and we wear headphones. And so that's a much cleaner sound. But so many people just turn it on and want to talk, and they just leave the speakers open because they don't hear themselves. So they feel like, people don't hear an echo. So they feel like everything's working. But to do that, what they have to do is remove a whole bunch of your audio. So you're not going to sound nearly as good if you don't have headphones on. And the key is to try to figure out, how to do it as subtly as possible.
That's when you've made it. If you're a contributor on one of those shows and they send you to an audiologist, they're going to have you back a lot because it's expensive to get the molds made.
Yeah.
Good pick. Now I can't hear you very well because I want my headphones back.
Alex, I respect your opinion, but I can't get my hair to look good before 3 p.m.
Exactly.
And until that changes, I'm wearing a hat and I'm wearing earphones over that hat.
It's Andy's look.
Exactly. But I also think, MacBreak is still very much a radio show. We radio mics, and so I think it's less of pressure here on this show.
It's in character.
But I think that, yeah, exactly.
Authenticity you can't buy at Laporte.
I'm going to wear both. I'm going to have my in-ears and my regular ears. How about that?
That sounds wild.
Overkill. That's belt and suspenders. And now
because you're listening to one of Andy's operas on the inside earphones.
That's another advantage of these like really nice over-the-air. Not only are they really comfortable, but there have been times where I've had to commentate on like a live stream, so I can have like my earbuds in underneath and have both streams going at the same time.
I knew you were doing that last World Series. I could tell. Yeah, I wasn't fooled.
No, not for you. I was just concerned that I wouldn't be able to hear you, so I was having two sets of earphones in case one of the streams goes out.
Actually, I was doing that in the last Super Bowl.
Win the pennant.
Yeah. So my pick, there's two of them. One is still not available, but Google is making its podcast app available on iOS. That's I think it's nice to have more choices. It may not be the best podcast app. It may be the one you like the best. Everybody has their favorite. And I'm also using this, I have to say, I have an ulterior motive to encourage you to subscribe to all of our shows. Pick your favorite podcast app. Could be Google's, could be Overcast, Shoutcast, Pocket Cast, whatever cast you like. Subscribe, and then you'll get MacBreak Weekly each and every week. And the other pick I wanted to mention, for a while when COVID broke out, the folks who make the app Plague Inc. really were at great pains to say, now don't use this to model pandemics. This is not science. It's a game. Well, guess what? They're going to update it to include a pandemic so you can practice. The update will actually be developed in cooperation with the World Health Organization and Global Outbreak and Alert Response Network. They're also, by the way, making a big contribution of $250,000 to be split between the WHO Solidarity Response Fund and the Coalition of Epidemic Preparedness Innovations. So thank you. Obviously, Plague Inc. has benefited a little bit from the pandemic. And you can download it from the App Store for 99 cents. There are in-app purchases available. And even though it comes from Endemic Creations, it was for a long time, they said, this is not a pandemic simulator, but soon it will be. and you can practice wiping out COVID-19 to your heart's content. We should all do that by self-isolating, washing our hands, taking care of ourselves. We want you all to be back here for the next MacBreak Weekly and every week after that. Andy Ihnatko, stay safe, stay healthy. You can catch him, WGBH Boston. You going to be on, or you're going to stop those for a while?
We're still doing stuff. I'm going to be doing it from here. So fortunately, I've got like one of these.
Where are your radio headphones? Yeah.
Yeah, so we're good, but it's because it's a news program. Sometimes they don't know day to day like what's going to be on, depending on what gets said by whom and has to be debunked. So usually it's going to be Fridays, but that could change week to week. WGBHnews.org.
WGBHnews.org. Lory Gill, of course, she is the star managing editor at imore.com. The lead singer for the fabulous rock band Sick Burn.
Which hasn't even practiced in a couple of weeks.
No,
so I have a feeling my voice is going to get a little better by the time we finally start getting. I think my voice is actually going to clear up.
Wow.
So you'll see. It's already better, right?
Yeah.
You're going to see over the next couple of weeks when I don't sing, it gets clearer and that rasp goes away a little bit.
She's going to sound like nice. That baritone at the Metropolitan Opera.
Still sick, but not so burny.
Exactly, yeah.
That's Rene Ritchie, imore.com, and Vector. Don't forget the Vector podcast, the video at imore.com/Vector. What's coming up?
I just put up the MacBook Air and the iPad Pro review.
Excellent.
And I will have a special video either the very late this week or very early next week. Stay tuned.
Oh, a special video. Very nice. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Rene. Thank you, Alex. Oh, I didn't plug Alex. 090.media. Now's the time to take advantage of Alex and his crack team of streaming professionals to bring your conference or event to a wide audience. How's that?
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
I should write that down.
090 Media.
I'm very impressed that Alice could afford himself to handle the streaming for the show. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, he did a nice job too. Let me tell you. Thank you.
By the way, a bunch of us are going to be geeking out tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, talking gear, and then I'm going to be talking about Zoom at 11 o'clock tomorrow, and I'll put the information up on my Twitter. So a little bit of
really
expert,
good. Yeah. AlexLindsay on the Twitter.
And I'm threatening to start streaming every day until this ends. But it'll be early in the morning. It'll be like 7 a.m. Just to do Q&As. I'm not going to do any shows. I'm just going to turn it on and talk to people because a lot of people. Everybody has so many questions about virtual events right now, and I feel like the easiest thing for me to do is just turn it on and then just start fielding questions and maybe drag people on that make sense and just kind of. But at first, the first 3 or 4 days, I think it might be as early as tomorrow. But if you follow me on Twitter, I'll post out links. But really I'm going to probably just open it up as an open office hours.
Very nice. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Rene. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Lory. Thank you, most importantly, thank you for listening and watching. We do MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays, right after iOS Today. In fact, it's a great all-Apple day if you tune in at 9 for iOS Today, and then around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1700 UTC for MacBreak Weekly. You can watch live or stream live, or listen live, rather, at twit.tv/live. That's the live streams. A lot of choices there, including the brand new 480p YouTube format.
You can still go up. It's just
the standard. I think they're limiting
bandwidth conservation.
I think they're starting to limit it. Yeah.
So I think it's in Europe you can't go up, but I think in the rest of the world I think it's just that it's defaulting
to a lower quality. Okay.
Yeah.
You can also download copies of the show anytime you need it. twit.tv/mbw. That's our website, twit.tv/mbw. We're on YouTube as well. In fact, you can ask your smart assistant to play the latest episode of MacBreak Weekly. Just say, Echo, play MacBreak Weekly on Echo. Sometimes if you say on Tune, it helps. I always say podcast. For some reason, that seems to help. But you'll figure out the exact syntax for your favorite smart assistant, voice assistant. We do encourage you to subscribe. That helps us a lot. Downloads on all the shows have been off a little bit, I think, because people have been concerned about other things, but also because people aren't in the car as much as they used to be. So do us a favor. Listen at home, will you? We've got a lot of great programming, and we're going to keep going because we want to keep you company during these difficult times. Thanks for being here, everybody. Now, go back to work from home because break time is over. Maybe it's lunchtime. I don't know.